Oh,
Yes.
it just jumped 40 seconds. Welcome or unwelcome. I don't know if anyone's actually here yet because I haven't got YouTube open. What professional I am. Um. Uh. Wait 1 second. I didn't do that correctly. This is definitely me doing my job. All right then. We're off. Got a slightly rough start already. So
Where am I?
uh, you are here. It's just I can't fucking show you. Like I said, I couldn't crop the capture.
I see.
You should be audible. Um, Let me make sure that actually audible. It's just I can't fucking show you. Like I said, I couldn't crop the capture.
Well, I can understand that because, my then again, my real name is already fucking known. So I can understand that.
Yeah, I just like to be smart about these things because I can be terrible already as it is. But you know, what we're talking about here is that some of this really needs to be spoken about for a long time, and that's hands off Jason Unruhe because recently, Caleb and Haas have threatened to frame Jason as something that he is not, to frame him in the most disgusting of slanderous of fucking ways. And this really ties in to years and years of abuse that Caleb knows he can utilize to his advantage against Jason. Jason has been attacked, berated, belittled, insulted, trashed, treated like shit, discarded by people he thought were comrades constantly and constantly and constantly. And it is about time that people took their fucking hands off the situation and maybe thought about the guy's humanity. No problem with people making criticisms. Criticisms are very healthy and very important to communism. But you go through his comment section and you tell me if most of the shit you find is criticism, or whether it's slander. You go through the way people speak with him in other parts of fucking political discussion and tell me whether the people are respecting his positions and criticizing them with truth at their heart, when most of the time it's one line I got him ways of operating in debate where they just try and slander anyone and everyone who follows third world this thought as just a bunch of fucking doomers that hate everyone who comes from the first world. If we really were like that, we wouldn't want to push for third world revolution. I mean, first world revolution. Sorry.
If we were really doomers, why the fuck would we be constantly talking about issues that affect the people we care about in the places that we live? If we really didn't care, we hated first world people, why the fuck would we try to platform people that don't have any power and let their voices be heard? I mean, what Caleb Moffat is doing is actually undermining that effort.
And that effort was the whole reason Jason even gave Caleb any respect in the first place. Just took a step back, dealt with his bullshit, thought maybe this geezer's just a bit naive. And so if we work together, we can fix this out. But what it comes to show is that Caleb has played the naive Marxist to a T. Fucking flies. We're getting bloody mosquitoes while it's snow outside. Brilliant. No, Caleb has played the naive Marxist to a T. He has managed to create this image to people that he's just someone who's getting his head around things, and if you stick around, maybe you'll flex things out. And the guy has been a Marxist for a good 20 something years of his life. Like it's mental, you know.
What
I've been a Marxist for like 7 6 7 years of my life, and I don't fucking I I I understand things enough to make decisions on where I am within the Marxian order off of half the experience he has. Well, let's say half the experience, half the time within communism. I can't really delineate that to experience itself because I mean that really comes into the way a lot of first world people will treat being in a party as experience, just being in it, like not doing anything for anyone, but just Maybe they turn up to a couple of the party meetings where they all suck each other off, but
Well, the thing that really sickens me about Caleb Maupin is there's nothing more disgusting and despicable than doing lying about someone possessing child porn. Nothing is more disgusting than that. Nothing, because that's an accusation that ruins people's
that's an
lives.
accusation that can get you killed. Like,
Yes,
get the person you're
this
accusing
is
killed, I mean.
this is sociopathic. I don't come in to say this. This is sociopathic. I mean, it it's like, and I'm just gonna say this: if Jason was so much of a joke and nobody takes him seriously, and you pity him, and why the hell are you resorting to this accusation? Obviously, you are afraid of Jason and what third worldism stands for, because you can't argue against it. So what do? You slander somebody, which I find hypocritical, because Mr. Maupin, aren't you the one that complains constantly that you're getting slandered for being a fascist, for being a racist, for
He
being a
always
homophobe?
accuses people of threatening him with Antifa as well.
It's like, you continue this bullshit, Caleb, you're gonna get Antifa on you, and you're gonna have no one but yourself to blame.
Indeed.
It's like, there's a little thing called karma, and I actually do believe in karma.
Karma's a
You know,
bitch. That's the way I always
yeah,
looked at it.
when you do that bad karma long enough, you're gonna get payback, and you're not gonna like what's going to happen. And you know what? Someone could do this to you, Caleb. You know that? Anybody that hates you, they could frame you for possessing child pornography, and guess what? Your life can be ruined. So I would advise against this. Not that you're going to do that, because us poors, we're not valuable in your eyes. We deserve to be where we are because we're not worth it to you. But this is not about me. This is about people like Jason, because an attack on Jason is an attack on us all. And the fact that these rumors of your cult doxing trans
Trans
kids,
people.
what the fuck is wrong with you? It's like, it's like, I mean, anyone that defends, Caleb Maupin, you have no ground to stand on. You're fascists. This is the shit that fascists do. This is shit the Proud Boys do. This is shit fucking that fucking these fascists that have fucking doxed, people in the past. You're doing the exact same thing, and you're not just fucking. You're just proving to everyone that you're the fascist that you are, and you're.
I mean,
I,
they got his relationship with Haz as well. Like, Haz is openly shown to be an objectifying sexist, a fucking, what's it, a racist, a a disrespectful individual towards struggle, ignorant of the importance of Pantherite struggle, etc., etc. Caleb sticks to this guy like fucking glue. It was only a week or so ago. Fuck off, BitTorrent. It's fucking asking me to update. Only a week or so ago was Caleb, on stream with Haas bashing fucking BreadTube as an escape to dodge criticism every time. Every time they're always blessed, they just project it onto BreadTube because BreadTube's the boogeyman.
and here's the thing: unlike Jason, unlike Caleb, Jason actually talks about real world issues. He does it constantly. It's like, what the fuck does Caleb do? And all that he does is talk about nonsensical shit that doesn't matter, or talking about cozying up to fucking to the most fascist members of American society, cozying up to the fucking Proud Boys. It's like, it's like fucking slandering people, fucking talking how much of an evil BreadTube is. It's like, this is the same freaking guy that wrote an entire book on fucking BreadTube. A book. It's like, how does that help the movement?
The book
Or
as well. I mean, I covered this on the stream where I talked about their addiction to BreadTube. The book is full of insane drivel. Like, he's so he's fascinated with slime. I guess that's the best way to put it. Like whenever you hear him talk about thought slime, he's always so fascinated with slime being anti-proletarian.
You know, some of the people in the book could sue Caleb for libel.
Defamation.
Yeah. So yeah, Caleb, you 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 know, Thought Slime can sue you for libel for basically slandering him for saying stuff that is not true. So you better watch yourself, Caleb. You're gonna piss off the wrong person one day,
He
and you're not
suggested
gonna recover from it.
he suggested that the geezer was fucking like causing people to kill themselves by talking about their issues. Mate, the reason why people kill themselves is because no one will talk about their issues, not because someone decided to let them open up and finally get what's trapped inside of them out of them. These people mad.
Well, according to Caleb, nobody but cis white men are working class. Like, don't get me started on the disgusting, like, homophobia that he's been spreading. And it's like, what's really pissing me off is everybody that supports LGBTQ rights are supporters of imperialism. And, in this narrative, it's like, wait, huh? Since when is opposing right opportunism supporting imperialism?
I tell you where he got that. He got that straight from the CPG BML.
You do realize it's racism and chauvinism put inserting your American values onto the third world. It's
No,
that, right?
apparently it's the gays, the lesbians, the bis, and the trans people. They're Bill Gates. I remember him changing his name to Bella. I remember Elon Musk is definitely just a rabid homosexual. Um, Jeff Bezos is a lesbian. Oh wait, no, sorry. They're all cis white men. Ah, shit. Sorry,
It's
my bad.
it's like Caleb Maupin is just and Paz and his cult. They're just cutting, narrowing it down less and less who's working class. It's like apparently people who are LGBTQ are not working class. Those who are trans aren't working class. Those who would suffer from states that outlaw abortion aren't working class.
I
It's
mean,
like,
here's the thing as well with trans people. There are trans working class people. There's literally a demographic you can measure it, but it's not just that. Why are there less working class people who are trans? Now you could make the silly argument that a lot of people make where it's just about prestige, but I think it's a bit more than that. I think the main reason why it happens is because of what's it, sexism, homophobia, or transphobia in society. If you come out trans or anything else like that in the poor, you are at much greater risk of having your head smacked in than any one of these aristocratic trans. That's why you see the big disparity between the lower class and the upper class trans. They are using middle class trans people who are individualistic fucking dickheads. I don't mean all trans people are in the middle class in general. I just mean like the trans people will know what I'm on about. The people who are gatekeeping your fucking community. I really apologize if I'm getting this fucking terrible. But they purvey individualism within the LGBT community because a lot of these people, a lot of them being cis white women, will control the narrative, especially on the trans issue, but also on bisexual issues as well. And what you end up seeing is
most
this disparity because the lower class trans lot are very communion, like in the sense that they're very community. They very much care about the people around them.
well most the reason why it appears that they're mostly middle class and up and rich is, here's the thing: if you, when you're really poor, coming out as trans is a fucking risk.
Terrifying.
You It could be, you could freaking not get employment anywhere,
And
depending where you live, if you're trans.
oh, there's one place you'll always be able to get employment, and that is selling yourself essentially to sex traffickers, because there is a sex market for them. That genuinely, this is one of the biggest conundrums. Like trans people are all thrown out of work; they have nowhere to go. They're people who have been that have gone through a lot of abuse in life, and so the sex market comes along and just adds more to their plate because there's a market of people that, because it's a phenomena, a peculiarity, they want to, you know, objectify it. and show power over it. Um,
That's another reason why I am for the abolition of porn.
yeah, because it pervades this disjointed society that we're in. This very inhumane society where we're most centered around personal indulgence and objectification of others than we are about respect for all, respect for everyone.
I mean, when Caleb Maupin speaks about this sort of shit, he's not doing it because he actually supports these communities. He's just looking for an excuse to push his homophobia and his transphobia and
Yeah,
injecting all of this entire shit on the third world. Oh, is Iran, anti-LGBTQ? Yes, but is that relevant to supporting them in the anti-imperial struggle? No, because in places like Iran, I'm using Iran as an example because they're a religious country. It is not up to the West or the global North is better way to say it to dictate what the global South do. If whatever problems those societies have, it's not up to us to decide how those societies deal with those contradictions. Those are not our contradictions.
well,
And I think using your conservative views and assuming that everyone is as bigoted as you is fucking racist. It's chauvinistic because it makes it seem like they're as hateful and as you. And I talked to somebody from Lebanon. He didn't seem to hate, LGBTQ people. So what the hell are you on about?
yeah, my elementary brother has been on a couple of times on this show, Palestine, peace not surrender, and um we did a stream on NASA as well, talking about the importance of NASA to the struggle of Arab liberation. But I mean, also, the thing that I've noticed that is if you break down where individualism comes from, you're not going to convince someone to drop their beliefs as to what they think on homosexuality so soon with that. But what I've noticed is you can get people to show respect. They'll turn around and understand that this demographic of people is a demographic of people who are not able to stick their feet on the ground because not only are they being attacked by the they're not just being attacked by those that are homophobic, but they're being attacked by their own community that's claiming to defend them. That is then going to try and the force their shit into imperialism, because that's what really terrifies a lot of the third world from this shit. It's not just their history, because we all had the same fucking cultural backgrounds and history, and we're not any special that it's changed. Neither are they any special because it hasn't. Sometimes things change, sometimes things don't. It's amazing that when you're not being bombed for 80 years straight, and being crusaded for millennia's fucking straight, you wouldn't be fucking in a point of siege where you don't have the fucking chance to altercate things like this. If people are given the respect and the capacity to operate, they will give you the respect and the capacity to operate. And the thing that terrifies a lot of these worlds isn't just that. Yeah, I remember what I was getting on there. The people who, they're not doing this just because of cultural or religious reasons. That's one of it. One of the main reasons why the third world are against a lot of these things. And you know what? I had this sort of I got a lot of influence from this from having a lot of these stuff explained to me by my Muslim friend. Is that it is a representation of first world individualism. That is their main criticism from even the most religious of people. It's not because a book told them so, or someone from the past told them so. It's because indicative to their cultural background, their religiosity, and how they operate. Individualism is a contradiction to humanity. That's why they get caught up in it. If you can break down the homosexuality and all the other things like that isn't itself individualism, and the majority of people aren't what is portrayed from. So the West portrays such an image of the LGBT community being a sex pest community to the rest of the world. So that's what they see. And you can call them homophobic all you want in the world because that's what they see. How is that their fucking fault? What do you think they get to choose what they get to see from the first
Well,
world?
I as someone as most of the world, the kind of stuff they see from America, and I'm use Japan as well, because and in general, their culture is overly sexualized. I mean, look how they. It doesn't matter what they are. Like when they see gay people, they think they're sexual deviants. Now, if I'm putting myself in somebody's shoes who lives in the third world, who is getting bombed, and what I and I already hate the America and everything that America stands for, and if I would probably hate the LGBTQ as well because I'd see it as another manifestation of Americanism.
Yeah.
That I'm just saying that's what they see. If these societies were allowed to develop organically without constantly being at war, not constantly worrying about when their next meal's going to be or if they're going to live to the next day, you know what? Over time, you would see, relations with the LGBTQ community in these countries, you would see them be more tolerant and eventually accepted the people in those communities. But that's never going to happen as long as they're constantly at war. I'll tell you this. Do you think America, even though they don't really, America doesn't accept LGBTQ people, let's be honest, unless you're in the upper
Neither does
class.
Israel. Israel claims it does, but I know someone who's I do believe non-binary trans in Israel, and he's treated like shit. He's treated like shit. I mean, like, here's a great example. So it's you can legally be gay in Israel. You know, you can't legally marry in Israel. You can be married and gay in Israel, but you can't marry. You have to leave the country to then go get married. So for anyone who wants to claim that Israel is a bastion of LGBT stuff, and that's what connects Caleb's idea of LGBT being imperialist, they're full of shit. They're wearing it like a moniker. Caleb is force feeding the third way down people's throats by doing this
If it,
because
if anything, what Caleb Boppin is doing is imperialism because he's actually inserting American cultural values to the global South. The
this
global
is
South hate
well,
the
this is
global
what I'm getting
South
at though is
hates
that like
America.
the third way is it's the modern age of fascism, and so what the third way preaches is it preaches that we need to adopt LGBT race struggle and all these other bits and types of struggle, gender struggle, etc. to wear it as a moniker for what Tony Blair and Gerhard Schroeder called globalism and globalization, and they said it was tantamount to globalization that LGBT and other things like that be pushed at the top of top of their tongues.
And let's be honest here, this anti-imperialism from the Caleb camp is hollow. Because how can you be anti-imperialist if you support China? If you are pushing fascist, bullshit like, socialist patriotism? How are you a anti-imperialist?
Yeah, I mean it's like anyone and everyone for just a moment, including myself, can put aside like how much we rate China in comparison to the other imperialist powers. It's still one of the big dick empires, and it's sort of like that's what really goes to show it. China could be half as bad as the US, and what he's doing would still be pure hypocrisy. Like he's
Well,
simping for them. It's not like he's critically supporting them and criticizing what it is they do. He simps for their shit.
my issue, I can't bring myself to support China because of Israel and Africa.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but if you support Israel's genocide in any way, I don't care if you don't directly support it. If you do business with Israel, I'm sorry, you're the enemy, of the global proletariat. I'm sorry, I will die on this hill. Palestine is an important issue because what's going on in Palestine. is going on in all indigenous lands throughout the world. You know, in Japan, you still have the indigenous populations over there. You know, that are fighting, for their very existence. You have them, people in New Zealand, Australia, fighting for their existence. Freaking
Ireland.
Ireland's still suffering, in colonialism to this
We
very
said that at the
day.
same time. I hope latency got that together because that was brilliant. We both said Ireland at the same time.
Fucking, fucking, Hawaii, the Philippines, Puerto Rico, all these
I
territories. It
was
doesn't
speaking
matter.
with a beautiful Puerto Rican comrade who lives in New York the other day. Like, so it's beautiful that you mentioned Puerto Rico because most Americans don't mention Puerto Rico and forget it exists.
It doesn't matter who fucking does the oppression. It doesn't matter. Oh, China offers them better deals. Okay. Well, let me ask you this: Is how do you think it's predatory taking advantage of countries that are in desperate positions? They either they either suffer worst oppression by the United States or China. Um, any rational person who desperately needs, resources or a trading partner is going to choose China, and China is taking advantage of these desperate, countries who do need, a trading partner because the European powers have fucking just basically fucked with the people in Africa for freaking centuries, and China's taking advantage of that fact rather than giving these people's assistance with no strings attached. They're doing it through loans. How is that not fucking predatory? You're just replacing the British or French, depending on which territories they were formerly a part of, with the fucking Chinese. How are they any different?
Yeah, I guess it really comes into summer is that these people are looking to dissonate and change their shit because the way that I've always worded it, I mean, I don't actually, you know, I don't entirely see things from this mannerism because I know that our respect does give us genuine knowledge, and I understand that we're not idiots, but I will say that like the way that I put it to these people because of how they like to see themselves as some like big brain intellectual that's more special than everyone else. They got more fucking brain cells to rub together than me multiplied by you, or you multiplied by me, or me and you multiplied squared Jason. But you know what I mean? Like you could multiply us all together, and as far as they think they have more brain cells than us. Well, if they think they're so smart, be a fucking smarty pants and teach us Wagwan. How about how about allow off with the bullshit of trying to tell us that China is an ally, everything's fine, this, that, and the other. We can ignore these loans. At least it's better than this person. At least it's better than that person. When they're hiding shit from us when they say that. To think that they don't understand that it's a problem and that you know somehow a bunch of fucking some two people who are near enough homeless just come around and manage to come to this conclusion. I can't understand how someone with all this resources could not come to this conclusion unless they are looking to not come to this conclusion because the resources are there for them. And I won't have any of this
Well,
determinist bollocks that a lot of people try to give where it's like, oh, but their interests. It's like, yeah, but they're still consciously deciding. I mean, the only reason you would politically engage in any form of extreme activism as an aristocrat is if class consciousness is organized. And labor aristocratic class consciousness is fascism. Like Donna Newman's uh, writing on the organic nature of fascism to the labor aristocracy is absolutely true.
well, it's just with China. I just feel that these people don't actually. They're racist against the global South. They don't see them as human. So to them, it's not predatory
You know what,
because
as well?
they're not personally being affected by it.
So you know what as well? I spoke with Dr. Weisfeld, and he had a position that was quite old school around the third world, saying that the third world's the east and the first world's the west, sort of thing. And I bless him. He's an absolute angel. Like I pushed back on him on it and gave him my point as how I see that the divide has changed back to north and south. And Dr. Weisfeld being a very, very statuant, true intellectual who comes from humble beginnings as a refugee, accepted that and said that makes more sense for the current apparatus of things. And you know what? That's absolutely beautiful. That is what we need in the struggle. My man's got the word PhD next to his name, and he has more humility than Caleb. And I even gave him great respect to it because his analysis still had great poignance to it, and I'd argue on the side of Christendom. When you look at Christianity, Christianity's good side existed in the global south and the global east because of Romanism, and as Dr. Weishaupt went into a discussion then on how Romanism had rewritten the Bible. But a thing that I wanted to segue into regarding the Caleb situation is Dugan, because Jason's getting smeared by this geezer, by Caleb. He's smearing Jason. But smears aside, Caleb is a guy who got involved with an open fascist. I mean, he might call himself an asshole, this, then the other. Guy's an open fascist. He speaks fascist shit. Dugan appropriated patriotic socialism from the natives. Um, so they do the same appropriative shit that fascists always do, where they rob from black and white people and up and down and left and right and yellow, brown, red. Anyone who's anything that they can take something from, they'll take it from them. Um, Well, it was Dugan that Caleb got patriotic socialism from, not the natives. What interaction has Caleb had with the natives to get it off the natives? Basically none. Um, Makes me
The only
concerned for any American leftist preaching patriotic socialism that they've got this from Dugan. And if they've got
the,
this from Dugan, which would be the most sensible thing, then the idea that Caleb Maupin is an anti-Semite and the idea that Caleb Maupin is supportive of Dugan's ideas is not too far-fetched. I mean, in his interests.
well, the only kind of natives Caleb will talk to are those who are assimilated and who are supported by the United States government. So, which makes it a contradiction. You oppose imperialism, yet why are you willing to accept representatives of this imperialist state, of people that would actually support the interests of this fascist government? It
Um,
doesn't make sense to me. Do you support Americans' imperialism or do you oppose it? You can't do both.
yeah, trust me. I mean, what's it? There was some words from yeah. So so there's some words from a song that really sort of get into this logic to them, as to how their logic is ridiculous to these things. This is so for context. This is coming from the perspective of an African from America. These two lines, and it's really important what's being with these few lines. It's really important what's being said. Obama's president, so what's he represent? Just because the N word's half black, don't mean he's heaven sent. You are clueless to evidence and all the minds he's messing with. His charm and smile hasn't got my ass up out of this depth of shit, fronting like he's truly Jesus, and all you fools believe it. The change he's making isn't good. That's just how you conceived it. It's like we're all broker than ever. It's due to reasons, dealing with self beneficial plans and the movement he's with. Illuminati or whatever the fuck they go by, they're the reason weird shit happens and we don't know why. Like the the poignance of that is that if you just spoke to Obama in that, Obama wouldn't give you that inference. But you're speaking to someone from the real world, and that is what Gwen. Like these people ain't heaven sent. They ain't bound to these people. They don't have any. They don't show any freedom or justice for it. I mean, I guess this one line really says it. His charm and smile hasn't got my ass up out this depth of shit.
If that be real, I actually think Caleb Maupin and his ilk hate working class people in general, because it just seems like they're narrowing it down who isn't working class and who is. I mean, Caleb Maupin's smearing of libertarians as neoliberals. Like, what the fuck? every libertarian I've talked to opposes neoliberalism, even though they don't know what neoliberalism is. They think it's crony capitalism, but they oppose cronyism. So what
To
the
be
fuck?
honest, like, as much as I do find the term a stupid term, it is a fitting term for neoliberalism. Neoliberalism is where capitalism literally doesn't even bother to do the bare minimum it used to do. Like, it genuinely, liberalism, classical liberalism, a brutal ideology, is still better at doing governmental institutions and organizing payouts to people than labor aristocrat than neoliberal society, because neoliberalism relies on the big labor aristocracy to keep control. That's literally, they've gotten to a point where they're like, well, we can chill now. We have this big labor aristocracy we can buy off with with the consumer market. We don't need to buy off pause. And if we look at the coronavirus, what people don't know about coronavirus, because everyone will point out that it was engineered in the lab and all these other stuff like that, and it's true. But why it was engineered in the lab was for mining resources. But then we see the involvement of the Gates Foundation. So what people don't seem to understand is that they have pushed this virus around the earth and directed it at poor people. That's my conclusion in all of this. This has been directed at poor people, disabled people, elderly people, the expenses to the system. They literally did tests as to what a coronavirus pandemic would ensue onto their societies months before it leaked. Months. I genuinely feel there has been a conscious effort to not just kill the poor, but terrorize everyone else into Orwellian society, terrorize everyone else into what's it? Into being under surveillance, applying for this ID system they now want to impose on people. And what's it all because one of the biggest problems that allowed this to continue as well is rather than fixing the leaky vaccine, they turned around and was just like, "Oh, the vaccine's leaky, but we'll give it out to people anyway." Like, because I'm not on about when they first administered the vaccine. I'm on about after, when they turned around and admitted that they found out it's leaky and that it's not going to stop the coronavirus, which they found out early in the vaccine rollout. They should have turned around and halted rollout and re-engineered the vaccine, not pushed it on everyone. There's vaccines that people are taking that cause a 1 in 5,000 and a 1 in 28,000 chance of severe myocarditis, respectively, all because they couldn't be asked to re-engineer it and make a vaccine that works. If I'm ever to take one of these vaccines, it will be Sputnik, or fuck me if I ever manage to get my hands on the Cuban vaccine, which I do believe is still Sputnik, but I'm not sure. I'd imagine they'd have engineered them ones themselves, but it wouldn't surprise me if Russia sent them the technical package either.
I only trust the only people I trust with the vaccine are is Cuba.
I can understand that. Russia has its own problems.
I just Cuba is like the only because they have the best doctors and they actually generally care about making a good vaccine. They actually care about the health of their people. So that's why I'm saying, considering their track record, I would rather have Cuba's vaccine. But we don't have that option. And if you ask me, this coronavirus, you know, the pores, which is what they see us as, we're just lab rats.
Yeah, absolutely.
And is it any coincidence how a lot of these so-called Marxists, the people they talk down to, are people from freaking poor backgrounds who are barely making it as it is? I'm sorry if I don't have if I don't have all the time in the world to fucking read like fucking a fucking library of fucking Marxist texts.
All
You know,
572,000 volumes of Lenin.
it's like I read what I can. Whatever time I have. It's I have other things to do as well.
Mm-hmm.
And this campaign against Jason, I just see it as, if they're gonna do this to Jason, who says they won't do it to all of us? They won't try to manufacture something against any one of us. Who's to say? I'm just using myself as an example. B level in his group won't try to do a slander campaign against me as a racist.
But the angle that these people have with their poor versus rich mentality towards intellectuality is they ignore where organic intellectuals come from, because a lot of my understanding of things comes from experience and understanding from my experience and learning from that. I mean, I'd say going homeless was probably the absolute most humbling experience I'd ever gone through in my life, and it hits you like a stone depending on how you operate and deal with it. I mean, I worked with people to provide for each other, support each other, food, anything from food, water, ensuring we had shelter. Obviously, we also were getting drugs and other stuff like that. But fucking hell, what are you gonna do when you're homeless? Not get high? But a lot. I learned a lot from my experiences. Now, I come in and I get into two situations, and both of them offend me and offend the people that I am a part of the same class of, as far as I see it. It's the art of disrespect. So if I say something that seems off canter to them, and not within their lines of ideas, I'm treated as someone who doesn't know anything about Marxism, and that I'm just an idiot and a dickhead. But then when I say something that's smart to them, they'll treat me like I'm well read, and I find that insulting too. It's like they'll turn around and call me like, "Oh, you must be well read. Oh, you must have read all of these things and all that." It's like, no, literally, that's not the only place you can come to learn things. I am not extremely well read. I have read a few of the books, sure. Imperialism, State of Revolution, the Family. I can never remember the full name of that book. Um, Dialectic and Historical Materialism, Economic Problems, Social and the USSR. The fucking importance, as far as I'm seeing, the ones that really I needed to get down to understand things. But there's so much I need to get down, um, or finish. In the case of other books, I'm looking at you, Foundations of Maoism. But the what's it? You know, a lot of my understanding comes from my experience, and a lot of my understanding I got from reading those books was me applying those books to my experience. So when someone basically can only credit someone's understanding of things as you must have read a lot of this or read a lot of that, goes to show how little experience they have in their life driving their ideas. Um, I, I'm not a very I'm an organic intellectual. The bourgeois methods of knowledge have not been as privy to me.
Well, my reasoning for being as violently against fascism as I am is I live in an extremely conservative area, Orange County, and it's recently I've been seeing more and more people being open fascists, and the way they dress, their demeanor. Where I work, I saw fucking a member of the Proud Boys at the parking lot. You, yeah, this is fucking scary shit. That
Terrifying.
ex- yeah, that experience of seeing open fascists, you know, it there's no it's the people who says I use the word fascist too much. No, I don't think I use it enough because I think Caleb Maupin and his supporters they're fucking fascists. If you if you actually support this slander campaign against Jason, you're a fascist. You you really are a fascist.
By guilt
You
of
don't.
association, because here's the thing: you might not be politically a fascist. For those that are getting a bit confused with what he's applying there, what he's saying here is that you are siding with the reactions of fascism, and very conscientiously, because there is no there's nothing that backs up these ideas. I mean, we even had a very fucking kind person come out and basically step away from Caleb because it become too much for them. And that's how we even knew about this situation in the first place to tell you. You know, this is slander and plain for people to see. And if people really want to run and take with this, they fucking can. Because you know what? This really runs into something else. The accusations of Jason as a transphobe can
Well,
relate a lot. 44-year past 26-year-old lumpen proletariat with 2 years semi-proletariat, being homeless on and off for 15 years as disabled. Yeah, you suffer with manic depression too. Solidarity on that, brother. Solidarity.
Well, I wanted to say this. I know somebody's like, you're going to take the words of some random guy. I'm sorry, but this Jason crossed the name of this person out for their protection because you don't know what these fucking psychos will fucking do if they find out who told Jason of their plot. If they're willing to dox Jason, who knows who else they're willing to do it to? Do, do you think fucking they'll stop with these slander campaigns again with Jason? No, they'll do it to everyone.
Yeah, Jason is someone we share solidarity with because Jason being in a proletarian position, even regardless of his background of being from more better off places, he's in a proletarian position and he's in lockstep with lumpen folk like myself. Like it's like Comrade Depp was telling me about it is that one of the things that has really brought a lot of I don't know how to word the emotion. What's brought glee to Jason's heart, to his very cold old man's I've been fucking ostracized a lot heart, is that he is now bringing lumpen people into third worldism, and that is the most important thing because it's the lumpen proletariat that's gonna hold the candle of this struggle. We're the ones with the closest relation in the first world, to closest relation to the third and the fourth world, um in the second world, like the lumpen proletariat, they had the closest conditions to match that. I mean, a lumpen brother, Rob, will know this as well, is that like when you're fucking homeless and you're on the street, a you see a side of the world that you thought you knew, you thought you'd seen, you thought you'd had a taste of, but no, you'd only had a lick, you'd only had a bite. Like you end up fully entering this almost different end of reality. Um, yeah, I'll reread my message. You reposted it, lad. Can relate a lot. 26-year-old lumpen proletariat, 2 years semi-proletarian, homeless on and off, 15 years disabled with borderline sorry, bipolar disorder, family background proletariat and semi-proletariat. Fully support Jason Unruhe. Fully support
Well,
both of you and MRN. Absolute love, solidarity, and respect, Robert. You're a
well,
legend.
well, I like to say this though. For those of you who hate Jason, and if you're watching this, I even if you don't like Jason, I think you gotta take this threat to Jason seriously because if Caleb and Haas, they're gonna do it, willing to do this to Jason, they'll do it to you too. They'll they'll do it to everyone that opposes their fascist agenda. Caleb Maupin is labeling everyone a third worldist, even those who don't even believe in it.
Oh man.
So, so a threat to Jason is a threat to us all. And no, I'm not saying this because Jason is the most important, Marxist. No, no, that's not what it is. Out of principle, any one of you can actually be a target. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Caleb Maupin and Haas tried to do the same to Black Redguard.
But I mean, and
Because Black Redguard do you think Black Redguard's not a threat to Caleb and Haas? Do you think he's not a threat? Because he's actually doing real organizing. Do you think Deadman's is not a threat? Do you think Black Internationalist is not a threat? Do you think, cadres in the third world aren't a threat? They'll target everyone and anyone. They don't care. Caleb Maupin is no different than every fascist in history. In fact, I'm just going to say this right now. I think Caleb Maupin, is the American Hitler, and we should fucking take him seriously. Because if for those of who studied the history of the rise of fascism in Nazi Germany, Hitler wasn't taken seriously. Neither was the Nazi Party. Look what happened. You had one of the most brutal regimes in world history.
they go from a small
Over
following to a big following very quickly when they get bourgeois backing. And Caleb comes from a family that is political party affiliated, like bourgeois fuckers. So he has his links, he has his connections, he has his things, he has a lot of money, and you know,
The CPI, and this sounds outlandish. I don't care. I'm going to say this. They have the potential to be the 21st century Nazi party. They have the potential to be that. And the threat of the CPI is dangerous because they actually have a chance to actually take political power. The CPUSA is a joke. I'm just going to say this right now. And I'm not, this is not lesser evilism here, but if Caleb Maupin does take the CPUSA to court, I actually hope the CPUSA wins the case because I think the CPI is far too dangerous as an enemy. And
so
I'm speaking as someone that lives in America that I'd rather have the CPUSA as an adversary who is ineffective, has no chance of taking power, than an enemy like the CPI.
well, and you know, just to get to Robert in the chat is saying some beautiful things. I gotta say, pay solidarity and respect to the Rust Belt and the sacrifice zone in Northeast Ohio. Absolute solidarity in that, comrade. And yeah, this is exactly how it felt for me as well, Rob. Is that gaining a greater understanding of like what it is we've been struggling in, showing that we're not just going mad in the drowning that is struggle. It almost feels like having your head rammed underwater a lot of the time. I'd also like to let you know, I think YouTube like yanked one of your comments from the last video you commented on, Robert. I did leave a comment on the video with an at you for it, but the at thing won't actually highlight unless there's someone in the comments that I'm responding to, so it didn't ping you. Because I caught the first part of it of you talking about the first part of your history, but the, you must have said a swear word or something. Because YouTube's been doing this to me recently, where every time I use a swear word that could be perceived as being directed at someone, it just yanks my comment. So I just thought I'd let you know on that because it was really, really like hitting me. I was like, I got this beautiful comment from a lumpen comrade, and I couldn't even get at it. But what's it? Be nice to be able to actually have a conversation with you and bring you on, Robert, because someone with your experience, like in the lumpen, that's undeniably something people need to hear. Of course, I won't press you into anything you don't want to do, but I'd absolutely love to have you and any lumpen people that want to come on and tell us, you know, I mean, we're lumpen too, but tell the rest of these dickheads what the reality of the situation is on the street.
Well, I know this. I know what I said, a few minutes ago. Stone sounds outlandish when I said the CPI could be the Nazi Party of America, the equivalent of it. But I see the parallels between the Nazi Party and the CPI.
Do you know what? So, um, Robert has just explained it perfectly for you. Like, he basically ripped what I was thinking straight out of my gob. It's beautiful. Caleb Maupin has Be Liberal are crypto third positionists and crypto Nazbols without a doubt. Did 6 years in prison for armed robbery. Had to live 6 years with fascists. I know a fascist when I see one. See, this is what I mean about the lumpen. They go through these experiences. They know what it is. They don't need you to describe like all these fancy intricates with your fucking books. They've experienced it. They've lived with it. It you know I was brought up by in a household that uses fascistic principles to justify its way of organizing itself. And not even because my dad's a bad man. It was a family in crisis. What's it? It's something I'd like to break down at some point with help from Maxwell Glover because I think he could help me bring out an explanation on this issue. But like it's this thing, it's this experience that drives a greater understanding because a lot of these people who've read this or that and think they understand fascism, like Caleb, for example. A lot of these people are susceptible to it themselves because they're all aristocrats. And what is the organic reaction of the aristocracy when crisis happens? Fascism. Donna Newman was absolutely 110,000% correct on that.
Honestly, I just see Caleb Moffat as an anti-communist.
Well,
Honestly, I don't think he's a. I actually think he hates communism. That's
um,
why. I mean, why is it that every one of his targets are real communists? I mean, if you're,
well, is it
I
angle
mean,
for you that might actually expand what you're about to say? I think it's one of them where that's the subconscious motive. So is the thing. What I think has happened is him being a communist from he was like 10 or something. He was a young lad. Someone it may even been as early as single digits. I can't remember. I mentioned it in one of my first mopping videos. I think it may have been the first one. But he's been in the struggle for 2 decades of his life at least. Um, I feel that in his young years, he just kept getting ostracized from family, from friends, and stuff like that. Because I know that happens when you talk communism around liberals, even if you're a shitty communist. So, what's it? I reckon that the bashing that he has had over those years for his views and the isolation has caused him to now take on a position that will have him get less isolated. He's doing the aristocrat thing where they're trying to get back in with society. But then, of course, I see that there's a lot more of a conscious effort behind his actions because he's doing Roosevelt, we need to save capitalism. Like, this is fascism in action. Roosevelt was a fascist. Let's not get that right.
well, I actually, okay, Caleb Moffat, I think might have started off as a genuine communist, genuine, but I actually think it was the 2010s is when he started on his road to fascism. I don't know for sure, but I'd say sometime after Occupy Wall Street. Today's Caleb Maupin would have not have been with the protesters at Occupy Wall Street. And I don't like giving him credit, but I like to say that Caleb Maupin did start off as someone that did generally want to fight for a better world. But something happened in the 2010s that caused Caleb to give in to reaction.
Cut his hair, start wearing a suit instead of a leather jacket. He
It's just
became
Caleb Maupin. If you see, look at the evolution, or de-evolution is a better word for it. Caleb Maupin sounds more and more like an anti-communist. And the Dugan conference, when I first learned of that, when I still supported Caleb, I was disgusted that this so-called communist would fucking go to a conference with fascists and fucking basically go out of his way to impress them. What kind of communist does that? I mean, people could say what they want about Jason. Jason doesn't do that. And yeah, that debate Jason had with Richard Spencer
shit.
was fucking shit, and it fucking pissed me off that how he can lose to a fucking Nazi. But Jason owed up to that. Jason doesn't didn't give in to fucking Spencer or go out of his way to agree with him.
I mean,
Caleb Maupin was sucking the fucking dick of Alexander Dugan.
what people seem to forget as well is that Jason has denounced his prior positions on white politics. Like, he now understands that anti-white politics is a good movement. Irish Socialist Republican supporter, as you see by my email address, lol.
It's like another thing about this movement against Jason. It isn't they're going after any person, any white communist that rejects whiteness. They're the ones that are that they like they don't hate us as much as they hate communists of color, but we're pretty up there. We're like seen as the enemy. Like taking back European culture away from whiteness, because whiteness is genocidal, and this is why, you know, revolutionary pan-Europeanism scares them so much. They don't want to give up whiteness. They don't. And okay, I got a question. What culture do you expect somebody who hates America? What do you expect them to replace it with? What do you expect them to do? Why should people who hate this country for everything that it is, why should we why should we embrace a country that basically took away the culture of my ancestors? I may not have had my culture stolen from me like, you know, Africans, or the indigenous of this land, but it doesn't change the fact that this country forced my ancestors to assimilate to this reactionary, genocidal fucking culture that is America. My cultural identity was taken from me before I was even born. Hell, before my grandparents were even born, my cultural identity was taken from me. Why shouldn't we take back our cultural identity? That's what the back to Europe is. It's not just deport all white people back to Europe. It's taking back the cultural identity that we lost, you know, centuries ago when our ancestors came here. Is there anything wrong with that? I mean, decolonization isn't just, giving back the land to the natives. It's also decolonizing the mind. It's not supposed to be popular. Correct ideas are not supposed to be popular. We're supposed to combat, incorrect ideas because they're incorrect. If we allow incorrect ideas to spread, that's harmful to the movement. Caleb Maupin is an obstacle to the Marxist movement. He doesn't want to see a real change. He wants the same old racist, colonialist system that is America. And anyone that challenge him, Caleb Maupin wants destroyed. And I'll go far to say this. I actually think Caleb would resort, wouldn't actually mind if some of the victims of his slander campaigns or his doxing get killed as a result. Yeah, I think that's how fucking low and scummy Caleb Maupin is. He's a fucking scumbag. I
Yeah.
mean, Jason's already dealing with enough shit as it is, and it disgusts me that you would resort to the worst accusation imaginable. And of course, if let's just say the positions were, if Jason did the same thing that Caleb, his fucking cult would fucking go after Jason in a heartbeat. But every time Jason defends himself from slander, it's not okay. That's the thing I hate about the Caleb cult and Caleb Maupin in general. He's allowed to defend himself, but not the victims of his slander campaigns.
I mean, I did a video on this with like we're here to make friends, not cadres, because he made it like so tantamount about the this like he made it so very tantamount around the idea of if people criticize him for the things he's being criticized, you're not his friend. Well, a we got to be able to accept and deal with criticism on an honest basis, but also we're not here to make friends. It's good if we do. I absolutely encourage everyone to make friends as much as you can. But we're not here to make friends. We're here to make cadres, and that is tantamount to our struggle. I mean, it's that we have this love and respect for each other, and I go like, and with what Robert Hall said, he says, "quote Yep, I see myself as a Celt and European, not white and not American." Absolutely, it's I respect myself from the fact that I come from English and Irish heritage, and that's my background. So, it's not whiteness, it's not British, it's English and Irish heritage. If I was to ever group it as anything, I would say Saxon Britannic. That's the way I would word it, or Britannic Saxon. I don't know how you would join those two words. They're hard to join. I wonder if Caleb was bought off by Russian and or Chinese money. Um, that is something that I've heard a lot of people make concerns of. Um, and I feel that there's a very good plausibility to this. I mean, I know people who have been offered money from what's it news or agencies associated with China to produce shit on the Xinjiang situation. So um, I I I wouldn't throw it past them. I mean, every country funds pretty much anyone that will support their shit. I mean, well, every country. I mean, every imperialist nation. Sorry, would support people with this blast of money. You know the saying, follow the money and where the buck stops. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You gotta look where the buck stops.
B level lied to me. When he was gonna interview Caleb Maupin, that he said he was gonna ask if he gets funding from China.
Well, one thing I got to answer those to Scion. So Scion, it's not so much about being friendly. It's the you're not my friend. Like it needing to be about being friends, not being good cadres. Because this problem is that he's being criticized, and he's rather than answering the criticism with the truth, he's just accusing people of being not his friend for supporting the slanders of fascists when the criticisms are coming from Marxists.
Well, Caleb Maupin's certainly doing the job of COINTELPRO. Why need fucking the CIA and the FBI to split the marks the left when he's doing a good job by himself? It's like it's funny how these people say we're the ones that are dividing the left. Wait, what? People that have almost no power to influence fucking people outside the internet, we're dividing the left? That's like a laughable.
Yeah, indeed.
It's like, let's take it into consideration. Most of the people that support Caleb Maupin are people that are from aristocratic backgrounds. They're not fucking poor people overwhelmingly. I mean, when was the last time Caleb Maupin showed up at a small YouTube channel? He
Yeah,
won't he won't do it unless they agree with his views.
and
Like Ewoks Unhinged. Like, remember how Ewoks Unhinged, how B level was like he basically made it known he doesn't agree with Caleb about China, but then look like almost a year later his tune completely changed.
it's all this opportunism to join who's going to be the most victorious party for their ideas.
It just goes to show you that Caleb Maupin, the only time he'll ever
Yeah,
promote a small YouTube channel is if they support his ideas or
yeah.
they're close enough to his ideas.
What's it? And I gotta raise in fist of solidarity to that. Yeah, the movement of James Connolly and Seamus Costello will never end. It will rise and rise and rise again until socialism is built in Ireland.
And I'm just
Not just the kicking out of the British, the building of socialism. And I will also say to Sion that yes, Sion, you are correct. It is a part of Caleb's manipulation to deflect criticism and to defend his image.
not to mention Caleb Maupin fucking pushing basically disarm the proletariat. It's like, how are you not a fascist when you don't even support the proletariat being armed? It's like no matter how much you look at it, Caleb Maupin, his political views aren't that much different from the State Department's. They really
Indeed.
aren't. It's very superficial. He doesn't really care about working class people. Like, okay, why doesn't he ever go to working class neighborhoods? Oh, he's like he's trying to rewrite the image of what is the working class. That's what he's trying to do. Like the poor, he's doing what the mainstream media has always have done. Basically, write the poor out of existence, put us in, invisible. We don't exist. And Caleb Maupin's going to make it so the middle class are the real working class, and the lumpenized working class are not working class, and making us out all to be fucking enemies, even though most of us who are lumpen are like the most vulnerable in society. Like, you're gonna tell me a fucking disabled, person is fucking a threat to the fucking, to the to them, or to workers in general. I mean, we'd be the first to suffer under a fucking naked fascist fucking, government. We'd be the first ones to suffer. It's like, how can these people like not see this? Those who support Caleb, that you're supporting not only a fascist movement, you're also supporting a eugenics movement too. Because it is a form of eugenics, what these people support. They probably would support the killing off of the fucking disabled, because they would see us as not real working class, or not seeing us not worth keeping alive. Like, not to mention the ableism, the fat phobia that's being pushed. Which actually, now that I think about it, fat phobia is another form of white supremacy. It's mostly white supremacists that push that. Like, they're like pushing the unreasonable beauty standard of
Yeah,
what is to be proper fucking, you know worker.
yeah.
It's like,
They're setting the bars so fucking high that they're gonna basically disorientate the lower sector of the working class and the lumpen proletariat.
even those who are on the brink of being lumpen, it's oh, like he's like narrowing it down, so only like the upper sections of the, working class, the petty bourgeoisie, they'll be the lowest they'll be willing to go, when to consider working class. It's like Jason, what he represents, is a threat to Caleb. And yeah, you fucking people who, the Haas cult. Oh, if Jason was such a joke, why would he resort to slander campaigns? Why would he resort to making up lies about, Jason fucking playing a rape mod in fucking Fallout 4, or Jason having possession of child porn? Why would you do that if you weren't afraid of Jason? If Jason was just a joke, why would you not ignore him? Caleb can't ignore Jason. He can't afford to. I actually think Caleb Maupin is not going to rest until Jason is basically disappeared from social media. That's what Caleb Maupin. This is what happens when someone spends so much time to social media. You'll get Caleb Maupin.
Yeah,
Caleb Maupin can't go one day without tweeting something on Twitter.
but I mean, you know, the reason why Marpin is like this is because Marpin is the antithesis to us, and Marpin comes from the upper class, and Marpin is a defender of the system.
Well,
Which
I
I'm
actually
using
think
this as a good segue because this lets me get to the point into this. Robert that we have here, like he says, he's of Irish, Scot, Ulster Scot. So that's the half Irish Scottish people for those in the crowd that don't know, and he put that in there as well to make sure too, because a lot of people get confused to what an Ulster Scot is. And Scottish descent. Oh, and Cymru, and my man's a legend, and well, to be honest, not unsurprisingly, because he's already shown absolute great respect for his heritage, is not using the slanderous term Britain uses to call Cymru. They call it strange. They call it they call it the weird nation. That's what Wales means. It means strange or weird. Um, he comes from a socialist republican, pan-Celtist, revolutionary, progressive nationalist background, and with MLM points on it, and he's gone through prison. He's been homeless on the streets through social alienation. He has felt all his life from being disabled made me an MLM communist. I feel the same way myself. Yep, it would be V for vendetta on us disabled. We would be the first to go, I believe, under full fascism. You're absolutely correct. Absolutely. We've already seen this with the coronavirus. Fascism is here. They directed at us as disabled. Do not resuscitate. They had do not resuscitate orders out in Britain. If you went under with the coronavirus, and they do believe they're still out active now, and you're disabled, you don't get put on a machine. That machine is saved for the healthy people. Do not resuscitate orders, and they were handed out to the hospitals across the country by the and directly from the health cabinet of the country. But this beautiful Brittonic cultural history of our Celtic lumpen brother here is that you know it really his connectivity to that, his struggle within that, is a really great representation of how the working class and the lumpen proletariat, especially the lumpen proletariat, are not up for this American nationalism. These people have more of a love for their actual true heritage that America has tried to suppress and assimilate. You know, coming to America, they may have given Irish people a way out from the genocide in Britain, but that wasn't to be Irish. It was to be American English. That was what they were giving them freedom for. The people who got to still, be Irish without being tormented were the people who had the money to live in the high places. Because I mean, you'll still find today in America, Irish people still get attacked. Nothing compared to what happens to African people, Native people, or anything like that. Wouldn't stick it in the same ballpark. Well, except the anti ginger shit. But the what's it? Irish people still get attacked in a lot of places in America. Because what's it in America? There's this weird belief where everyone thinks Irish racism just stopped because they've moved away to the land of the free. Well, okay, you think that just stopped for Irish people? Well, they say the same thing for Italian people. How about you go ask the Italian working class of the 1930s if they weren't oppressed severely compared to the white working class in American society, if they weren't ostracized, because I think you find they were. Now, they weren't ostracized like black people were, but they were ostracized like Italian people were in Europe. It was just a different dynamic because through all the American dream, you can work yourself to not be treated that way. That was always the idea. It wasn't that fucking these things didn't exist. It was that you could get yourself out of it because the American dream will give you the freedom to operate. Everyone gets their own piece of land.
Well, the thing is that my ancestors had a choice of either assimilate into American culture or suffer racist discrimination. That's like that's not a choice. And of course, a lot of them would choose the former because they were in poverty and they needed to fucking get out of it. And it's like, how is it that what America did to the Irish that immigrated here, how was that not genocide? They may not have outright murdered fucking Irish people, but they did it in other more sinister ways. Our culture. It's like
This
how many
happened to German people too. A lot of
it's like
German people, like, so. Where are there any
I'm
German speakers that moved over in the American Enlightenment era? People who moved over in the American Enlightenment era don't even half of them don't even remember the fact that they're German.
I feel like if you don't even remember where you came from, where your ancestors are from, that's genocide because if you can't even we're nowhere near as bad as the as Africans, but it still doesn't it's still not it's still terrible. It's still a form of genocide. So
Yep.
like this
Genocide and eugenics, I would like to stop a second for something that Robert mentioned about the breast, the do not resuscitate order. So not only was it that bad, Rob, like so within the first year of the coronavirus, from taking away people's benefits, throwing people out on the streets, denying people the proper healthcare they need because of the NHS not being funded enough to deal with the current crisis and the current issues people have, a lack of carers, a capacity function, and even missed care from carers, and the do not resuscitate orders in 1 year of the coronavirus caused the death of 100,000 disabled people. 1 year, 100,000. Um, hard shit.
It's like this American patriotism. I'm as hostile as I am against it is because I see it as another form. I see it as genocidal, just reinforcing this fucking genocidal chauvinistic culture onto fucking the people that are resisting assimilation. Like I even though I haven't been doing a good job this year because of amount of shit that I've been dealing with, I'm trying to reconnect with my Irish roots because that's where I came from. That's where my ancestors came from. And I reject this out of principle because what does American patriotism offer me? What does it offer to people that are are like the lowest of the low in terms of class? What does that have to offer? Because how do I know? It's like I don't think I'm going to fare any better under Caleb's America than Biden's. In fact, I argue I'd suffer worse under Caleb's America, considering I've seen nothing but contempt from Caleb Maupin and his cult against disabled people.
Yep, absolutely. Like Robert said, like we'd be the first people to go. Like, and you know, um, his point on Sharp, because he's as he said also, as a lumpen, skinhead too supports Sharp, which is skinheads against racial prejudice, and Rash, red and anarchist skinheads. So let me just quickly explain what he's getting at here. So these movements rose up. I do believe it started in Britain in the 70s was the first anti-racist skinhead movement, and these people this was what started the adoption of um Rastafari language in the British lumpen was the anti-racist skinhead movement. Oh yeah, nah. COPD and asthma can be alright. Fucking yeah, can be alright. Pain in the ass, like fucking um, breathe. Having to struggle with breathing is fucking one of the most sort of nauseating disabilities to deal with. Unfortunately, though, they didn't provide us with a good enough vaccine, which was a pain in the ass. Yeah, it started off in the 70s, mate. It was it's what eventually spawned the red punk movement, and the black. I guess the black punk movement also come along the same basis too. To be fair, you can't really separate the red and black in the punk movement. They kind of sort of intersect a lot because dead Kennedys are all over the place. They are half the time they don't even know whether they're red, black, or green. They're punk. uh, but as we've all said, within the punk side of society is Nazi punks. Fuck off.
If there's one thing I will say, I really wish the Star Wars fandom were as aggressive as the punks were to kicking out Nazis.
I I wish most cultural genres were like that. I mean, even pop punk is not like punk when it comes to dealing with. You'd think something that's supposed to be a continuation would still have an anti-fascist element to it, but they don't care. They're all about just crime with each other. Pop punk is. They don't care about society as it is. That's why we've seen a rise of anti-flag and other things like that, saying it as it is.
Speak, Speaking of which, the complete contempt Caleb Maupin has for these subcultures is disgusting because th- you know these cultures existed for a reason. Rock and roll, punk, metal, rap. This stuff would not exist, if America wasn't as fucked up as it was. It was a rebellion against the status quo.
I mean, if it weren't for a bunch of hodgepodge teenage fucking well, more like early 20s, but late teen, early 20s libertarians didn't go and make thrash metal, metal would be much more right wing in the 80s and the 70s than it was because I know it sounds weird, libertarianism. Wait, that's a right wing ideology. Why would you be saying that? Well, because of libertarianism, um, metal had always had this recurring effect where it would roll into anti-war, and it started off like that, but it eventually started to like lose its ground a bit and get murky, and towards the late 70s, where you saw a rise of things like glam and other forms of pop metal, and thrash metal come in and just slapped punk straight onto the table with metal together, and you just never would have expected it. Everyone thought metal and punk would be opposed to each other. Hardcore bands as well were a main drive for this, like Bad Brains, for example. They you could argue they're either thrash. You could also argue they're hardcore punk. You could also argue they're metallic hardcore. But Brain what's it? Bad Brains. They're one of the people as well that really brought the punk side into thrash, in my opinion.
I didn't know that if it weren't for libertarians, metal would be fascist today.
Still is fascist today, unfortunately, though.
Not as bad.
So basically, what's happened is that since the 90s, metal got sold out to the labor aristocracy, and now more fascist ideas exist in it than ever as well. It's and thrash metal did have fascists rise with those libertarians. It's sort of like it has the same catch you always get with libertarians. Wherever there's libertarians, there'll always be fascists pretending to be libertarians. It's always a catch too. But metal has always seen itself as a catch 22 anyway. Every genre seems to hate each other.
Well, that's the thing the thing about Caleb Maupin is he treats these people like with contempt, these subcultures, and it's disgusting. Considering I don't think I don't think he has any respect for culture. He doesn't. He wants everyone to fucking look and act the same. Everyone dressing in suits, and everyone listening to fucking classical music.
Oh, Robert
It's like
posted something for you, Doc Sadovia.
what?
He posted something for you. Anti-imperialist action, Irish Socialist Republicans, Macrada is youth, Celtic language, Iergi, are good Irish sources, Doc Sadovia.
I see.
I'll screen cap that and send it, yeah.
I do have some books on Ireland, like ancient. I have a book about two books on ancient Ireland, one on the entire history of Ireland, one on Celtic spirituality, and it's like, yeah, I have quite a bit of books on Ireland. I
Um,
just haven't got around to reading them all yet.
so I mean, like, here's the thing, Robert, I'd like to ask is that do you know about uh the the story of um King Arthur, the Brittonic leader that fought against the Saxons in the, I think it was the 7th century. People aren't sure exactly when, but I think it was the 7th century. I remember reading sort of where they hit it.
There's so many different interpretations of King Arthur. I don't know which one you're talking about.
Well, what's it? Uh, so the Irish have tell the story the best, in my opinion. Uh, So they look at King Arthur as someone who is a he's a king in title, but he's not a king in the monarchical sense in the way that we would see it. He's more of a king in the sense that he's a spiritual leader of the people. So this is something that used to happen in many tribal socialist societies. When I use tribal, I mean true nation. I mean nation without nation state. That's what tribal truly means. It does not mean backwards or past society. That is a if anything a backwards notion and a backwards idea of bourgeois deviations and revisions on history. The you know the he was in a lot of tribal societies. What they used to do, you know, this is essentially like not just a proposal to slave society. This is a proposal to the initial ideas of feudalism. What they would do is that it wasn't about um lords just having an unruly rule over the land. No, if you were a king of a region, because obviously if we look to old tribal societies, kings didn't control an entire nation. Kings controlled a region, and a king had to swear an oath to his people that he would serve the people, and if he did not serve the people, they could replace him.
I see nothing wrong with that.
That's attempts at trying to organize democracy, whilst the Roman people and the Greek people call their societies democratic, but realistically, it's just democracy for the aristocrats. You can make a sitcom called The Aristocrats and just go through all the fucking history. You got plenty of content of them being shitheads.
Well, well, that's. I think we should switch. I think we should switch back, get back to the topic of the stream, like hands off Jason, because we barely been talking about this situation with Jason. We've
We've
been
talked
switching
about
the
it.
topics
We've
too
switched
much.
topics, but I'd say other than this one, most of the topics have still been on point because we have been talking about a lot of the issues of Caleb, and that is still relevant to this, in my opinion. Caleb, his disregard for the European culture of European Americans who aren't assimilated into the American society, trailer trash, bottom end working class, lumpen proletarians. The disregard for them is the utter ignorance that's shown in their ideas, their utter ignorance to material reality. They want to just focus on the fact that the aristocracy, the 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 people who have a greater descendancy from those who oppress this land than people who have nothing. I can guarantee you that. Most of the people who end up being poor are the people who came later, the people who came in the 17 to well, more so like the 1800s and onwards. That's the people you find in the poor. That's why most of them end up not being the English and French lot. It ends up being a lot more of the German, the Chinese, the Middle Eastern, the African, the Asian, in general. Sorry, I should probably just sort of just mention English, but would have been more efficient. But these people that came over later, they're the people who came over that you typically find out of the settler lot that are in the lower class. The people who came before, they're the people who are typically in the upper sections. Now, there are people who came later who went up, sure. I'm not saying that that's not fucking possible or that didn't happen. I'm just looking at the main demographic that when you look at America, the people who came over first are the people who own the big amounts of fucking, that own the big amounts of capital. And it's also people who came here first who managed to get a comfortable basis in their settlerism. It's, you know, manifest destiny was a movement that was started off by these original British, French, and Spanish colonists. Uh,
Well, I don't know about my. I don't know about. I know one of my family members. I think came as early as the. I don't know what the earliest I can think of because I don't have the money to track. Get a DNA test and track my ancestry on what was the first of my ancestors to come here. At least, but I do know on my father's side. I think we. We I have family members that fought in the for the Confederacy in the Civil War,
yeah,
but
which
I
is
don't.
the mid 1800s.
But then again, I don't know if I'm a descendant of of the person who fought for the Confederacy. I think it's a person who fought in the Union. I don't know. To be honestly, whatever our ancestors did is completely irrelevant in my eyes, because the ideology of our ancestors is not the ideology of the people that we are today.
But
And
we gotta look at like the cultural basis and the blocks of which society molds itself, and there is a contingent way in which this societies function. Like the reason why they brought over the people who mainly embody a lot of the poor today was they brought them over later on because they wanted to use them as extra labor on top of their slave force. They got a working class built up, and then when they went to repeal slavery, it was that working class that was then, you know, poised into terror that they're gonna lose the jobs that they just flew over the seas for, and then engaged in genocide. Trust me, all parties engaged in nasty business.
I understand
I'm
that.
just looking at the demographics they belong to, because trust me, I'm not looking at ideology. Like the people who came who were in the poor, still engaged in nasty, nasty shit.
Well, the thing is, that's I'm talking about my father's side. On my mother's side, my mother's side, my ancestors are more recent. Like the soon, I think they came, and I like, like late 19th century, early 20th, but I can't say for sure. But I don't know. But because my mother talked about her, the Irish side of our family more than my dad ever did. Because by my dad's generation, the Irish part of our family was completely gone. It wasn't gone completely from my mother's side,
Yeah, I feel you.
because my mother respected and loved her Irish cult, where her Irish cult, where our ancestors came from. My dad wasn't like that.
That's unfortunate.
Yes, even though both of my mom and my dad's last names are as Irish as you can get.
Yeah, like couldn't get any closer to the Isles.
Yeah, it's like, I know. I think my great grandmother uh, was, I think might have been a second or first generation immigrant. I don't know. It's unfortunate. I never asked my mom about her, but that's the thing that I would. This is all this culture. This stuff means a lot to me, and I think this patriotic socialism denies me and people like me, you know, eh, from connecting with our culture, from where our ancestors came from. I'm trying to rediscover who I am, and because I don't see myself as American. Because what does it mean to be American? This culture is so alienating to me. America is just Walmart. That's what it is. It's just one giant Walmart. It's consumerism.
Yeah, I feel
Why
you.
why would I want to continue to preserve this culture? And if Caleb Maupin generally believes in socialism, which I don't think he does, if he honestly thinks that we need to increase production, increase consumption, he's out of his goddamn mind. That's not why I became a communist. I became a communist because I saw, the world for what it truly is, not what I want it to be. And it's anti-communist to push for consumerism, because that's essentially what he's pushing for. Our planet can't sustain, the current lifestyle that Americans fucking live by. There's not enough fucking resources. And this is not a Malthusian fucking argument. It's just basic fucking biology. It is basic facts. Yeah, this planet has more than enough to feed everyone, but it's not going to continue to be that way if we continue at the rate that we're going. if the world was like America, we would go extinct in a year because we would run out of food. We wouldn't be able to make enough food for enough people if everyone lived like America. The American lifestyle is a fucking cancer. Not only is it alienating from fucking, to communities, it's violent, it's predatory, you know, like it's I can't even describe it. It's like Caleb just essentially wants to turn America to Japan. That's essentially what he wants to turn America into.
Whoa. Buy new product. Get eventually displeased with product after alienating oneself with product. Buy more product. Enjoy product. Get displeased with product. Find new product. Buy new product. Repeat. It's like fucking hell. This is the world we live in.
It's like these fucking people. It's like they watch Star Trek and learn the wrong lessons from it. Star Trek does not fucking advocate for consumerism, nor does it advocate that technology is a solution to all of our problems. No, yeah, that's dangerously naive to think we could just, you know, colonize the moon and that and mine asteroids and that's going to solve our problems. No, it's not. The planet that we live on is the only one we have at the moment. That should be our priority. Number one priority after we overthrow capitalism. Not fucking colonizing the stars. No. Trying to, you know, rebuild the planet that we've destroyed and heal it. We may need a century or two before we start actually exploring space. If that we can't just growth for growth's sake you know is
Bourgeois.
our is our ticket to extinction. The human species are no life on Earth is on a knife's edge. Caleb Maupin, if he doesn't fucking care about this. This is a bourgeois ideology. It's not socialist. It's
It's
fucking
fascist.
it's fucking yeah.
Hyper
It's like
imperialism. Like the stream that I did, the reason why I did that stream when I was covering Caleb Boppin and I ended up titling it um about breadtube because they ended up talking more about breadtube than about the issue I was going to criticize them for. Well, I went in to criticize them because basically I was told by Jason about them literally turning around and like touting that American imperialism should still exist. Not using those words before people think I'm gonna gaslight them or like that. They didn't use those words. But what they basically tantamounted is that they need all the resources that they're getting, that they need to be applying it um on a socialist platform. Like they just want to revise everything and have cordial relationship. They want to do Chinese style imperialism. They don't want to free the nations that are oppressed by the US. They just want to give them a better deal. This is this is fascism and the way it tries to appeal. It's trying to fix capitalism by being the fucking the broker of society. This is what happens when aristocrats step in to take control of society. And
well, America will never be trusted by those countries that have suffered in its brutality. In a post capitalist world, I don't think any of these countries are going to trust America at all, who were once victims. It would take probably a century or two before they would not be wary of people from that region.
yeah,
I'm not because think about it. If you were, let's say, you were someone from the global south, would you trust America or someone
no.
from America, even if they were socialists?
Where's Bad Our Boy when we need him?
It's like I'm just saying, if I were them, I wouldn't trust them. In fact, I don't trust Americans. I don't. It's like I don't hate. Okay, here's the thing. I'm just going to give context. When I say death to America, I don't mean the people. I mean the ideology of America.
Jeremy just says he wants all the American people to suffer. Caleb, get him
It's
quick. He's an anti-American.
it's like it's like the American people to suffer. They don't even fucking give a shit if people in their own communities suffer. I mean, come on. Fucking the,
It's it really comes to this. It's like Jason is supporting people in Arizona. He's trying to get people's struggles out there. Um, you know, he kept cordial relations with Caleb for ages. Where was Caleb's help with the struggle in Arizona? Like my man knows Jason. My man knows Jason reported that a massacre had happened. You thought Caleb, Mr. RT man, would want to interview people, was he not? He's a reporter. Why would he not want to interview these people? Not even if it's not with RT. Why would he not want to interview these people? Get the voice out there of people who are in struggle against Nazis. Because he's not for them. He doesn't give a shit. If anything, he'd rather see them gone. He's not for the people. Jason is for the people, and that's why I found it so important that I come out and as much as we have been detracted at times, got on to this hands-off Jason Unruhe because this has become ridiculous. Just slander and bullshit. Criticize all you want. That's great. It would be nice to see some active criticism. But when people are just calling him fat, when people are just calling him a dickhead, when people are just calling him fucking, you hate the first world, or you don't think revolution will happen, you're a this, you're a that, you're an ultra, you're a, all the fucking things under the sun that he gets blasted for, and now to the point where people are trying to frame him as some of the most disgusting sectors of society. This, you know, trying to accuse someone of being a fucking child molester just because they criticized your politics, like that is absolute bottom end trash, especially for someone who you claim to be great friends with. But as soon as he dared to fucking criticize you once, you threw him down the drain. You tossed him aside. You couldn't give a shit. I mean, you were blasting him behind his back for years, and you were blasting him on Twitter in the recent to the situation. You don't give a shit. You go on about, oh, well, I used to be good friends with Jason. We used to get along. I got cordiality to him. No, you fucking don't. You've shown nothing but animosity, nothing but disrespect. Look, anyone. Go and watch the debate that's on Jason's channel between Jason and Caleb on the socialist billionaires crap. Caleb very much goes out of his way to prevent Jason from operating in the discussion. He abuses Jason's anxiety against him. Seriously, look at it. Caleb knows how Jason operates in a discussion and how it's easy to basically it I, I I I have this problem with my anger of it in doing it sometimes. Basically, Jason's really reciprocates really easily. He's got a lot of respect for people when he's dealing with them, but he's also like anyone, he has anxiety. We all do. So when he's dealing with someone, if you high rate on them, he has to default to reciprocation because a lot of the time he doesn't know how to deal with the situation when he gets so high rate because the anxiety causes brain fog and it distills the way he's operating. That happens with a lot of us, the best of us. I mean, I have brain fog problems when people aren't setting off my anxiety, and that's because my fibromyalgia causes constant fight or flight. So think about the prospect of what's going on in here. Well, Caleb knows Jason's an anxious geezer. Caleb knows this stuff. Caleb used to be on friendly terms with him, used to speak with him, used to try and get along and all that. He's not an idiot. And he goes out of his way to stample all over this shit. It's nothing but a sign of pure disrespect. I mean, you know, it was actually as some that Jason had mentioned about the situations with me because like I can be a bastard at times. I can be way too hard on Jason and all that. But Jason, like, one of the things that really gives me a lot of respect for Jason, and how hard I can be with criticizing people's positions at times when I get a bit panicky about things because my mental health causes my own problems and things that I need to fix and I need to deal with. But it was the fact that like Jason showed this really great uh, reciprocity and respect for the fact that he's aware I try and sort of mitigate these things and put them aside. And like it's those things that just show an absolute lot of respect for Jason. I mean, it comes into like the people who accuse him of being a transphobe, but Jason has been in a position for a lot of his time where he didn't understand shit of it, and then he got confused with the labor aristocracy and the LGBT there, and basically stayed out of it until eventually he got pushed into a weird position to make a position on something that he didn't fucking understand because he kept getting attacked by people gaslighting him as a transphobe, and it made him panic. And it was recently with being able to learn from lower class trans people and people who know lower class trans people that Jason's really, and do you know what, even upper class trans people, Falcone's taught Jason a lot of stuff. The this has taught Jason to really support trans people and see that there's a reason why we've got to defend not just LGBT but LGBT people, and it's that development that people seem to miss when they want to just frame Jason as some rabid transphobe. Jason's not a transphobe. Jason is just a fucking Gen Xer who fucking what's it knows it's best he doesn't comment on these things even now that he's learnt his positions, because he has learnt his positions. If you've noticed, he stays out of it just as much as he has done in the past, if anything more so, because that's kind of the thing that we do need to do in this shit. We need to step out of the way and let the trans people speak.
Honestly, think that the relationship between Caleb and Jason was an abusive one from the start. And I'm using my own experience at B level because I can see the parallels between Jason and Caleb and me and B level.
Yeah, I feel you.
Caleb manipulated Jason from the start and took advantage of Jason's anxiety. And he just used that to his advantage. And he took advantage of Jason's respect for him. All these things. He took advantage of Jason. Like, the very fact that he did that to someone who's supposed to be his friend disgusts me. Though, I actually think Caleb Maupin is a scumbag. Be, just like B level is. But they're scum in different ways. Now, for those of you who don't know the context for the B level situation, long story short, when my mother was not even dead for 24 hours, and I did a stream that B level disapproved of, B level was plotting to send people after me to basically cause me to have a mental breakdown and possibly destroy me, mentally, and basically cause me to permanently leave YouTube. B level was doing this, knowing that I was, at a low point mentally.
Vulnerable, yeah.
Yeah. Now think about this. If you're going to go after someone who just lost their mother, and they learn about it from someone they perceive as an enemy, because it was wrong for me to attack Broden, and when he revealed the truth. But then again, B level knew I wouldn't believe Broden. He took advantage of that fact of my loyalty to him. Of course, I didn't want to give in. I didn't want to do it openly, attack B level, because I felt like I would be giving my enemies what they wanted. But Broden wasn't the enemy. B level was. And I think, what does this have to relate to Caleb? Caleb Maupin does something even worse than what B level tried to do to me. He's doing the worst accusation you could do to someone is, make framing someone for pedophilia.
Yeah.
Something that can get somebody killed.
Yeah, there's fighting words essentially. Like you become a marked man when you're associated with that. But there's some really good words that have come from Lumpen Brother in the chat, and what's it? I like to plop them on the table. So I've noticed even before Caleb and Jason stopped talking, never did Caleb ever say anything about the homeless, the disabled, the indigenous peoples, and climate change. I don't trust the American middle class, labor aristocracy, and petty bourgeoisie. I uh, and he also said I agree. I never saw Jason as a transphobe. I believe Caleb is a transphobe though. Yeah, no, Caleb is basically touting the CPGBML crap of like LGBT being a beneficiary of imperialism.
Which is ironic because the people that suffer the most under imperialism are the LGBTQ communities.
But and on the disabled issues, like this is a thing that I learned from learning with from an African comrade from America, is that the disabled struggle is only really, it's been neglected by pretty much all sides of Marxism in the first world. The only people in Marxism who seem to have been defending the disabled struggle are people who are um people who are black, or people who are native, people who are lumpen. Like you don't see a mass amount of these people touting themselves as these left wingers that care about the poor, care about the disabled, or even just lumpen people in general. But they really don't care about the disabled people all too much either. Like we I almost feel that with a lot of Marxists, even some of the supposed greats, that they just see disabled people as this weight that we'll deal with and give them greater things after the revolution, but we'll just ignore them for now. Like,
You know, one thing I've noticed that's a commonality. Which group are most likely going to be Maoist and third worldists? Think about this. The
oh, lumpen.
you know, yeah, lumpen and the disabled. Why every disabled person I've taught, that I've known,
Well, and
is sympathetic
people who are black and all that too.
is sympathetic towards Maoism, which is why I think the attack against Maoism is anti-black. It
Yeah,
it it, it, it is because, and I think that since I like to talk about this, ultra doesn't mean anything anymore.
yeah,
It doesn't, because what is an ultra? Because the real ultras are the ones that are not that are allowed to do what they want, like Black Hammer. They're ultras. The Gonzaloites are ultras.
oh
Yet
no.
yet they're not labeled as such. The
Oh,
real communists, are labeled as ultras. It's like, what does it mean to be an ultra? I'm sorry, but isn't an ultra someone that engages in adventurous activities? Isn't that an ultra?
I do believe so.
So if being an ultra means disagreeing with someone, then ultra doesn't mean anything. That means
Because ultra is supposed to mean like adventurism in a like a it's like metaphorical, like it's sort of its implication is not just about physical event, like it's adventurism within the ideas of Marxism, basically deviation. It's a very smart way of saying deviation.
okay. I'm just gonna say this. Most people who throw the word ultras has never read um, left wing communism and infantile disorder.
Yeah, the if you want comedy and theory, it's all there.
Yeah, but
Lenin is like full like seething rant for like the first half of the book, like just
yeah, but
straight up fucking well, um, you would have expected it to be a dexamphetamine fueled rant, but no, my man was just going off his own steam. Maybe he was drinking some of that Russian tea.
yeah, but I'm saying that ultra. I think Lenin does explain ultra leftism well, even though the term didn't exist yet, and I don't think anybody understands it. If you want to, if you want to, you know, who understands ultra leftism, who doesn't, ask them if they've read, you know, left wing communism and infantile
Well, I mean,
disorder.
the term ultra is just supposed to mean that you um see yourself as gestalt, like above all else, because of your being a left. You take everything to the nth degree. Like these vulgar materialists we see today, a vulgar materialist would be an ultra leftist. Marx called them vulgar materialists for good reason. It's not being against dialectical materialism to point out vulgar materialism, because vulgar materialism isn't, oh, you're treating the world like it's a material thing, because no, all materialists do that. Vulgar materialism is where, because you do that, you have this very obtuse um idea on truth, where you think truth is something that we can just have every bit of insight, like understand, like as if we can just oh, what's the term, um because there's empirical rationalization, that we could just rationalize everything off our past understandings, and that we don't need to utilize empiric understandings that come into contradiction to our already provable beliefs. If something is empirical, literally the term empirical means it has functioned in society, which means it is now in contradiction, unless you can make an analysis that shows that it does not come into contradiction, and that there is a greater issue at hand in regards to this conundrum. But the what I was going to say now, but I would like to stop anyway and pay solidarity and respect to Robert, because he as he said, he's paid solidarity. Sorry for your loss, Dark Synovia. Um, Lost my dad to suicide 3 months ago. It's a really, really, really hard thing to have to go through, Rob, and I
It
absolute
it
love and
does
solidarity to your family.
it doesn't get any easier. It's been a year, and it doesn't get any easier.
It's all about holding on to your principle, brother. It'll pull you through.
Yeah, yeah, but the thing is, call me a conspiracy theorist. I actually think B Level was going to do this regardless with me. He just saw me doing the
Oh yeah,
Noswell stream as a
he just found an opportunity to make things worse.
yeah. It's just I'm lucky I had the support that I had, and if, in fact, doing that is I wouldn't even do that to my worst enemy. The fact remains that even the other Carl was disgusted with this. Even people that hated me when they found out were like, "What the fuck?" It's like their hatred for this guy man is fucking justified. And Caleb Maupin, this is the kind of company that he keeps, is disgusting. And I think what Caleb is doing to Jason is absolutely, you know, despicable. Out of all the things he could have done, it's that. These people have no shame. And this rumor with the trans kids, I actually wouldn't believe. I don't think, I would put it above Caleb Maupin. I really don't.
Well, I mean,
I mean,
it's Haas that's doing the thing to of trying to expose trans kids and kids, teenagers,
I don't care.
to their
I'm just gonna
parents.
say
No, but
this.
one second. So so the thing is that we know it's true. We just can't. We can't. The person who told us and the information they presented, we can't show it. It you know no, whilst it's as it is and the information is not shown, it could be any of many of people that have been shown privy to this information. But what's it, if we were to show what we've seen, it would completely you know jeopardize the person who made us privy. So we're having to wait until further action on that one. But
Well, the fact that the
I know one of the people. I don't get along with them, but I know one of the people that was getting threatened to be um doxxed. I do believe they're actually my age. Yeah, no, what's it? I'm I'm considering reaching out to him about it. The problem is that this stuff is stuff from months ago. This has already been happening. That's the thing we've got to get sort of straight on. This is something from half a year ago.
Well,
This has already gone and
well,
probably has already been happening before that.
the thing is, this could potentially get these teenagers killed. This is this is what the thing that freaking I don't know how many times I have to smack it to people's head. This is fascist. Like, this is the kind of shit that fascists do. They, you know, you cannot tell me that Hawes is not a fascist. I mean, doxing 2 trans teens, that could be a death sentence potentially, depending on who gets a hold of that information.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, this is. I actually consider Hawes and Caleb, you know, I consider them worse than Richard Spencer.
I don't know. Given what Richard Spencer said, they're probably on par.
No, I think they're worse. And Stephanie Montague, who Caleb Maupin debated. And here's why. They don't pretend to be scum. They don't pretend to be reprehensible human beings that believe in a genocidal ideology that would you know put people like me through a ditch. Caleb Maupin tries to pretend you know he's like the one of the nice ones.
Yeah, he tries to purvey that he doesn't believe. Yeah, because people like Molyneux and all that, they straight up are honest. I get that. This is sort of akin to what Malcolm X laid down. Is that I'd rather deal with the conservatives who will just stab you straight in the fucking stomach from the front than a Democrat that will shake your hand and stab you in the stomach anyway. What's the
Of
difference,
course,
really?
as for Haas is what he's doing is potentially making it so there's no it's hard to tell who is and who isn't a fascist, because he's essentially supposed to represent the Marxists, yet he's anything but a Marxist. He's an anti-Marxist. In fact, I wouldn't put it past him to be part of the Proud Boys or some form of alt-right organization.
Yeah, I feel you.
And I would say the same for Jackson Hinkle. It's all these people have had to have some connections to alt-right organizations.
Oh, what
And
jack off tinkle.
and Caleb Maupin, he just doesn't care. He doesn't care that his audience, are fascists, support fascism, and say racist things against people of color. Um, Fucking slanders other fucking Marxists. He doesn't care that respected people in the third world who are actually respected Marxists are suffer racist and sexist attacks. He doesn't care. He has no conscience. Caleb Maupin, he would he would have no problem you know if his version of America was built on top of these people's corpses. And I will not fucking back down. I think Caleb Maupin is the American Hitler. Nobody's gonna change my mind on that. Hitler's, in Germany in the 1920s, and along with the Nazi Party in general, they were fucking clowns that nobody took seriously. Yet they end up starting up and the most genocidal fucking empire, in its brief history. It freaking slaughtered not hundreds, tens of millions of people. It attempted a genocide against the people of Eastern Europe. It freaking killed
12 million people in the Holocaust. 4 million of them which were Jews. Fucking.
Hmm.
This is
Oh well,
the
six
lesson.
million.
6 million.
Yeah,
I'm
6 million
sorry.
were Jews. And
It,
probably
it,
more because the numbers are usually low estimates.
I believe it was more, but we will never know the official numbers. But it doesn't really matter if it was 4 million, 6 million, 8 million, 10 million. What they did was barbaric. The CPEI has the potential to do the exact same thing the Nazis can do, and unlike the Nazis, America
Well,
has a far.
they're supporting the continuation of it. It's already happening
Hold
to the
on, hold
natives.
on, hold on. I'm not done. Unlike the Nazis, America has the most powerful war machine the world has ever known. The Nazis didn't have nuclear weapons. The Nazis, didn't have almost thousands of military bases around the globe or ready to start a war at a moment's notice or has, you know, a culture that's already deep in fascism already. America is a very violent, sex filled culture. And this is the kind of fucking shit that Caleb Maupin wants to protect. The CPI has the potential to be far worse than the Nazis ever were. You, and the camps that are already at the border. Who's to say they wouldn't make them death camps for immigrants or people who are descenders of this fascist state that they would create.
They're already concentration camps, and the conditions keep worsening.
We don't. Who knows how many fucking people have been killed in those borders? We don't even know if they don't have gas chambers yet. We don't know. But I'm going by. I know it's a hypothetical scenario if the CPI were to take power, but this isn't too far fetched if you studied the history of the Nazis. And the reason I know the Nazis is a cliched argument for why I would say the CPI is dangerous. It's because if you those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. This is the real reason why Caleb Maupin's afraid of the censorship from Google. He's not afraid because it will censor everyone. He's afraid. He's after his own interests and his own interests only.
Absolutely.
I mean, Caleb Maupin would turn on China as soon as it was convenient for him to do so, and Russia. He's an American nationalist first and foremost. I mean, look how fast he turned on, 90% of the Marxist community. Look how fast, he turned on them as soon as the patriotic socialism, thing was pushed by Jackson Hegel, which I find suspicious in itself. Then again, that's beyond the scope of the stream, if you
Jack
ask
Hinkle.
me.
But like, what's it? Robert Hall made a good point. I agree. Caleb has B-level, Jack off Tinkle, Proud Boys, and third positionists like Cultured Thug and his crew are more dangerous than the alt-right and LARPing type fascists like the Klan, Boneheads, and cosplaying neo-Nazis. Because fascism always tried to hide as a left-wing thing. What's happened, and this was kind of quite a recent change, since the 90s, they've just been teaching fascism as bombastic, scary, hard right winger stuff. They've taken away that fascism appealed to people and have just gone on about the murder. And they don't teach Nazi history that much in schools anymore.
Well, I didn't learn Nazi history through school. I learned it by reading books.
But well,
But
the main way they teach it these days is through documentaries, and those documentaries normally are skewed to treat Nazi Germany like it was some powerhouse. I mean, I guess the powerhouse in the sense that it was an empire, but like it was some sort of like unstoppable machine that wasn't defeatable. Even though if the Western powers had actually sided with the Soviet Pact, to organize an anti-fascist military on both sides of Nazi Germany and, and destroy the Nazis if they ever dare step foot out of their territory. The Germans would have been defeated within a year or two.
Well,
U.S. rise to power would have taken longer as well.
let's be honest. Caleb Mop Bread tube is the best thing that could have ever happened to Caleb Maupin's career. Because think about it, Caleb Maupin, most of his growth in the past year has been because of BreadTube.
Uh,
Because think about it, like I actually really started to get sick of hearing the word synthetic left, like how through the last part of 2020, because it didn't mean anything when everyone was labeled as such.
Sounds like
And
you're one of those synthetic left types.
it's just this fear mongering of BreadTube. It's like, and I'm just gonna say this as a self criticism because I think this is important for MRN. This infantile bullshit with BreadTube was fucking a waste of time. It truly was a waste of time.
Yeah, it was one of the things that you and Luke had both said to me that you were glad that sort of, that I when I come in, one of the things that I was against first and was very loud about first within the MRN chats is that BreadTube is not worth our focus. They are, all they are is a joke. Like, our focus needs to be the lumpen proletariat, the third world people, whether in diaspora or in the actual third world itself, and the fourth world people, and those of which are the lower working class. Everyone else is not a priority. They can come to us. We've got no reason to come to them. But when it comes to lumpen people, third world people, fourth world people, we've not only got to go to them, but we've got to go over them kneeling. Even myself as a lumpen proletariat, we've got to go over there kneeling. I can't understand why people seem to have lost this in Marxism. We are servants of the people. We do what must be done. And we can't do that if there's no one to organize it. There's only one person. What can one person do? But if there's five people can actually get shit done. If there's 10 people, 10 people can get more done. 20 people, etc. If we bring ourselves together, we can actually do things. It's like an old expression you always used to hear in school. A lot of British people will recognize this one. Together, everyone achieves more. I had a chance to stick my fingers up, so I did. But uh, together everyone achieves more. We got to throw in together, and Caleb never shown that aspiration towards his organization and things. And I guess this also gives me a chance to segue into the really good things Rob's saying in the chat. Um, they are in for the long game and have a chance of taking state power. The fascists and their mass base always come from the middle class labor aristocracy and petit bourgeois. Caleb is, I believe, a narcissist and sociopath. Same with Hazen B level. First time I saw Jack Off Tinkle, I thought he was part of the alt right lol. He looks
Well,
like a news presenter that's been like disowned. He wears so much like studio makeup, but doesn't have the studio lighting. That he just looks like a mannequin.
I got a question. Who is he says is a sociopath and a
Caleb,
narcissist? I
well, and
so
Hazen B level.
I actually think there's some merit to that. I mean, if you're going to like you, you know green light you know framing someone for child pornography and is okay with children being doxxed, yeah, you have to have no conscience in order to support such a thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's devoid of moral and cultural principles.
Not very Christian, isn't it?
Whoa, come on, man! But Caleb said, Caleb wrote a book that talks shit. Saying, saying that all all people who mention they're a Christian. Come on, man, they got communism in them.
Okay,
They're Christians. Christians come up with
okay,
communism, you know, man.
okay. I'm just gonna say this: Jesus would not support America if Jesus existed.
This is something I was I said myself on stream with Dr. Weisfeld, although Dr. Weisfeld very smartly said that it doesn't matter how we look through history and what justifies what, it's still all wrong. But it's like, yeah, no, Jesus would, Je- the American society that likes to associate Jesus with all their capitalistic shite, you know, they constantly fanboy around Jesus. They show him as a white man all the time, even though he is a man who was raised in the Fertile Crescent and Africa, between those regions. He was a man who had been kept a sanctuary in Ethiopia under siege from the Romans. He had been all over places in the Fertile Crescent and North East Africa. This guy never set foot in Europe, never once. As far as history can tell us, Jesus has never touched a tippity toe on Europe. But what America, Jesus hasn't stepped a tippity toe on Europe. What Jesus had stepped, so Jesus wasn't this white guy. Jesus was at the least brown, if not as black as any African person that you may want to perceive them as black. But we're all actually different shades of red, funnily enough. But the what's it? The Jesus was not a European. Let's just put it that way. He would never support capitalism in a fucking mile, in an inch, in a road, or the fucking yeah. Sorry, what's it?
Well,
He wouldn't go an inch within a mile of fucking capitalism. That's the fucking saying. Sorry, wouldn't go an inch within a mile.
well,
Capitalism is poisonous to the core principles of Abrahamic faith. That's why you saw the Protestant insurgents, and Romanism as well too, because the Roman Catholics were the first to do this. Actually, I can't just point at the Protestants. The Romans took Catholicism, they took Orthodoxy, and they rewrote the scriptures. They rewrote the scriptures to suit the late stage Roman Empire. Which, if anyone has read Marx or been privy to the beautiful video that Maxwell Glover did on what's it the his on European sort of settler history. Who are you if you do not know your history? Mentions about Marx talked about this. The Roman Empire in its late stage was going through private property. It was going through an attempt at capitalistic mode of production. But what faltered it was it couldn't stabilize a sufficient working class. Um, and so Rome rewrote Christianity to suit their exploitative means. And Dr. Weisfeld, we were talking about this uh what's it early hours this morning. Um the This rewritten version of Christianity is what Western Christianity, the Western Church, adopted and took on and utilized. And this is the ground basis of Caleb's ideas and beliefs. When he's coming from Christianity, he's coming from revised Romanic revised Romanic Christianity. Remember when Jason just debated Richard Spencer and Eric Stryker, even though both sides were civil and polite, but still it felt like a debate. Jason made it clear when he disagreed and told them when we, yeah. The problem with the situation arising there is that Jason was still following a bad line on white politics, so he was in a position where he couldn't even properly attain to it from an MLM third worldist standpoint. He was still what's it? He needed uh, sort of interaction with more on the ground comrades to get a better cusp and understanding of the situation there, regarding white politics, and since he's engaged with comrades who are of the lumpen, especially African and native comrades, they have really straightened out a lot of his ideas on truly what whiteness is and the difference between being European and being white. And do you know what? There's another thing as well, Robert, is that people don't understand the difference between being reciprocitous, being respectful. Well, sorry, reciprocating and being respectful, because reciprocitous isn't a word. Being reciprocating, being respectful, and allowing for a discussion to occur. Um, I mean, we all get heated at times, and we all display anger, and it's always good for people to show the way that their passion intersects onto things. But to gaslight, to slander, to throw like, I put it as like hissy fit behavior because someone disagrees with you, is to be an intellectual coward as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I'm
Because
just gonna say this. I'm not gonna say this lightly. Okay, everyone in history, who everyone likes to say, "Oh, Hitler was an idiot. Hitler was an idiot. He didn't like he was a clown. Like he didn't know what he was doing." They're wrong.
very
Like
smart man.
his ideas were shit, of course, but Hitler was a good debater. He was able to actually win debates against Marxists in Germany.
Here's the thing as well. Hitler had a better military strategy than his generals. His generals fucked up the German military strategy in the East.
Well, the reason what I'm getting at is I'm comparing,
No,
because I said
I'm
this.
just getting to something because it's like it does relate. Still, you got to look to the future of it. Hitler was not an idiot, and people will cite like 1944 Hitler when he had a mental breakdown and couldn't fucking operate half of his body properly. Yeah, sure, he probably wasn't a good tactician then, but Hitler was not an idiot. Hitler was someone who come from an aristocratic background. This was like as much as what's it um things are on hold, and where there's a slight return of cordial respect between us and Trav. There was a thing where Trav called Hitler lumpen. Hitler wasn't lumpen. I mean, he got lumpenized when he went to Bavaria, but literally joined the military straight afterwards, and then become a an Iron Cross holder, which gave him a greater position within German society. But he didn't come from the lumpen. He come from an aristocrat family. His father was an
Well,
official in Austria.
what I'm trying to get at, reason I brought up Hitler, because I've said this multiple times. I consider Caleb Maupin the American
Yes, and
Hitler.
that's why I'm
But
painting the picture on like that Hitler comes from that posh background. He has the wise intelligence. He's not an idiot to mistake him for. Caleb is the same.
yeah, but I actually think there's a huge difference between Caleb and Hitler. Hitler knew when to shut up.
Oh, that needs like fucking hell. I hope someone makes that into a soundbite. That's brilliant.
No, I'm serious. Hitler knew when to shut up, and Hitler, you know, didn't underestimate his enemies. Not unlike Caleb, nor did Hitler, you know, go his way to make enemies with people. Caleb Maupin, is not as smart as Hitler, it was. You, a smart person doesn't go out of his way to make enemies. Caleb is making enemies of everyone and anyone he can. And I think that if you're trying to, you know, have people defend you, you don't go out of your way to make enemies when you're not in a strong position yet. Yeah, Caleb Maupin only appears strong because online he's strong, but outside the internet, Caleb Maupin is not that strong, and I think it's unwise to make enemies unnecessarily. Hitler understood, you know, the necessity of not antagonizing, his potential allies or even foes, for that matter. Hitler was, understood this well. Caleb Maupin, what's going to hold him back from taking power is he doesn't know when to be quiet.
Yeah, he's got he's got Vosh derangement syndrome.
It's like let's be honest here. There's gay fascists out there that would support Caleb if Caleb wouldn't just shut his fucking mouth with his homophobia.
Yeah, but he doesn't know how to
That's
do that.
I can't believe this. We're giving advice to a fascist based on our understanding of history.
It's like Caleb. We understand you're a fascist. Just open up to it now. But here's the thing: you're doing it wrong.
And the only reason why I'm
Please
using
turn to
Hitler,
page 200 on Mein Kampf.
I wouldn't be surprised if he has it near his bed.
in the drawer, just underneath Dugan.
Yes, and all seriousness now, I use Hitler and Maupin as an example because they do share a lot of similarities. And Caleb is potentially dangerous. Like, yeah, he's acting like an idiot because but Caleb Maupin, if he were to be in a position of power, doesn't matter where in the U.S. government, he could do a lot of damage. And Caleb Maupin, is a threat that the American, cadres need to be taken seriously. And I'm not going to elaborate anymore on that.
Interesting. Both Caleb Maupin and Eric Stryker were in Workers' World Party before, and both were at Occupy Wall Street in New York City at the same time. Indeed. I did talk about Caleb Maupin's involvement with Wall Street in the past. When I tried being cordial to him in my criticisms of him. But he spat a rabbit mouth comment at me and then deleted it because fucking what's it? He can't own up to his own words.
Well, I'm just going to say this, and I've been accused of this myself. Just because I defend Jason, just because I admire him, does not make me a simp. And I don't know if you guys ever heard of this, but there's a such thing as when you criticize people, you don't fucking make it public, especially if you're part of a network. You do it in fucking private because that's actually not a good look for members to fight out in the open.
Well, it all depends on how things run. So the way that I look at it is, it should happen that way, but if it doesn't work out, and that people are going to function, and that the criticism isn't being taken and it's paramount, there is some sense of volition that things do need to go to a higher state of order. But then again, we actually have roles for that. I mean, that's my point. That's my role within MRN is to
but for me, if I had any harsh criticism of Jason, that I would save that for in private.
No, yeah, in private, but if it doesn't work and it's something that is paramount, there is a volition to then take things further. There's the thing. So what's it? So let's say if an org is about to go downhill, you have two options, because you've already criticized them and they've not accepted it. But what they're doing is going to destroy it. You either come out and publicly criticize it, or you leave the org. I'd rather come out and publicly criticize it first before I ever leave it. So while I agree with you to a degree, there is a necessity that we got to understand that there's stages to these things. That's why I have my role in MRN. My role is that if things go too far, I'm to plop my foot down wherever I can and see a place to put my foot down. And I do take that quite seriously. So I do agree with you. It's we shouldn't just blast people out in the open like that, because we should work to fix each other. But there is a poignance where open criticism is the only way you can help people. I'd argue that open criticism is partly what helped deal with the situation with Trav, just coming out in the open with the situation because
I
one of
don't
them.
see anything wrong with doing a combination of both. But I'm just saying these people who support Caleb don't understand what it's like to work in an org. You don't fucking, whatever issues you may have, you don't fucking make them private, public. You just don't, or if it's minor, you try to resolve things in private because that's how you're supposed to do things.
Struggle session.
Yeah, struggle sessions are meant to be done in private, not in public.
Well,
And when
not all struggle sessions. I mean, struggle sessions happen in public. That's the whole point of being a presenter. I just mean
I know
within
that.
an org, you would struggle session in private first.
That's
Because
true, and I agree with that.
we just gotta be very specific with the angle of things because people will use it against us for when we've criticized people external from MRN, like Trav, for example. It's sort of there is a poignance to it that not everything can just be behind closed doors because unfortunately that allows a lot of people who aren't people you can confirm are good cadres or not to essentially lie, hide, cover up, and prevent people from uh, properly criticizing and dealing with their positions.
Well,
The problem I have is that a lot of a lot of this does eventually bleed into professionalism, and professionalism is a problem. And I'll also say hello to Zidane. Hello.
well, I agree with you, and I think there's some merit behind it. But okay, here's the thing regarding me and Jason. Jason hasn't pissed me off in years, and there was a time I was angry with Jason, and that was with the Richard Spencer debate. But then again, I would blame part of that on myself for not considering that Jason was infallible. I, you know, and I think the problem with people who look up to Jason's, those who are fanboys of him, they still exist, is they don't see Jason as human, that he can't say stupid shit or do stupid shit, and he deserves the criticism when he does something stupid. I respect Jason that so much that if he does something that I think is wrong, I'll criticize him for it. Just like I would expect everybody else to do the same to me if I did something stupid.
Yeah, I mean, what's it? It's the fact that
But
we can have this environment where people can criticize each other and express what we believe and learn new ways to believe certain things, expand our understanding of the relation of the natural order of dialectics and how everything relates to the most absolute understanding of relative truth of which that we can understand at the current moment. Like we got to really look at the way that Marxist principles look at truth. We live in a place of time and space, which means the majority of understandings and truths that we come to are going to be stuff that moves, that changes, that will always be true for the time it existed, but won't be true for the time that's moved forward. Time is an ever-changing dialectic. Um, like for example, like the laws of feudalism are true to feudalism; they're not true to capitalism. That would be a good example.
well, the thing is, there's no way Caleb doesn't know this. Another reason he wants Jason, you know, these gone is Jason has had an impact on many people's lives. Many people would not be Marxists if it weren't for Jason. Jason has had a positive influence on many people, myself included.
Yeah, I would say I owe a lot of what I believe, my positions to the shit that I learned from Jason on, you know, how imperialism is bludgeoning the planet and how Marxism needs to come to learn that what is to be done cannot just be um, let's go do a working class revolution. What is to be done needs to be okay. Well, we need to deal with the wars that are crushing the third world. We need to deal with the fact that there are many people starving out there on the streets that could just do with a bit of support. Like if we start doing food bank operations, anti-war protests, try and do squatter housing and other things like that, we build a basis amongst the people of arduous members of struggle that are willing to put themselves into these people's struggles. And when people see that, action, they will see that Marxists aren't just people that turn around and say they're going to help people. They're people who would do it. That's why we got to come together. I want to come together with my northern comrade Luke Dublin from Manchester. We want to come together. We want to do a food bank project, similar to
I
what Shibby is doing.
I'm tired of being powerless. I want to do something, and it's frustrating me that I feel like doing what I'm doing with these streams of mine, I don't feel like it's enough. 'Cause I feel like there's a lot more that I could do, but I feel powerless right now with,
When
I
you're on
can't.
your own,
Yes, it's like Orange County is one of the if you're being an open communist is not necessarily safe considering how isolated I am in this part of the country. It's
yeah,
so it's
and
like so
and I'd like to just like exclaim like what he's talking about when he says conservative and the Orange County is a conservative part. California is split between Texas style California and California style California, what you all think California is entirely. And places in the south of California are exceptionally known for this, but places like Orange County, other places like this, they have a massive gun shooting. I wouldn't call them redneck because redneck is something I see as a very working class term. This is more like the upper class hicks you get in Texas. Like it's like they're like posh hicks. Like take a hick, drag them through a fucking a top man, and you've basically got places like Orange County.
Orange County, there's a lot of fascists that live here.
Mm.
Like one of the most conservative parts of Orange County, in fact, one of the most conservative parts in the country is Newport Beach.
Ah, yes.
It's like, okay, I could speak from experience because I lived in multiple places in Orange County, Anaheim, Newport Beach,
Jesus Christ.
close to Mesa, Santa Ana. Um, I'm Orange, and I'm not gonna disclose my current location. Yeah, that I'm not gonna self dox myself, but I've
He's
lived.
in what's it, New England, Canada. You'll find him there.
But okay, it's just I know what it's like living in Orange County, and I even lived in Huntington Beach too.
Oh
Huntington Beach,
no. Huntington
like
Beach
Huntington,
is fucking like being in your class position in Huntington Beach must just feel like shit because Huntington Beach is full of like some of the most snobby of Californians.
it's like there's fascists in like almost every part of fucking Orange County, and even close to Mesa, which is a place I'm familiar with more than any other parts. It's becoming even more fascist as time goes on,
Absolutely.
and and like the way the homeless are treated in Orange County has gotten worse, and the fact that more and more places are requiring, to pay just to use a fucking bathroom. It's like the first lesson you learn when you're homeless is, you're being deprived of basic human necessities.
I remember when I went into a pub, like I walked into this pub to just go use the toilet as a homeless person, and I got stopped by the guy who's like, he's like the owner or like at least the manager of the pub, and he stopped me and make me have to like essentially grovel to him just to go use the bathroom in his establishment. Even though the next time I come in and ask the bird who was at the same counter to do it before, she's like, "Well, you don't need to ask, just go and use it." So I was like, I got like essentialized to grovel to because these places are like patrons only to use the bathrooms. Like, what the fuck? Like, what are homeless people supposed to do when it hits like 8 o'clock at night and all the public bathrooms are fucking already closed? Like, the only place you got are supermarkets, which thank fuck most supermarkets ain't like that, where you like gotta pay to use the ting because they know a lot of people are gonna need to use the ting before they've paid. But
They would do it if
you see
they would do they would do it if they can they would do it if they can get away with it, and I do see them eventually start doing that in those
I could
places
see
too.
them doing it, but I just see they have a bit of a conundrum with like baby changing and stuff like that. But you certainly see this in like shopping malls and all that. Like they'll just make the toilets a part of the fast food restaurant and then the fast food restaurant puts it so that you have to have a food restaurant ticket to get through to the bathrooms. Because I was in Liverpool a little while back, and I went to use the bathrooms there, and the bathroom was literally a thing in this mall where you had to go to one of the restaurants to buy something to get a receipt to use the bathroom. So I had to go and attempt to have a shit on the train, which nothing's more fun than shitting on the train.
Well, the whole point is to make you feel worthless. That's the whole point of homelessness. It's essentially, the capitalist society punishing you for not, for not whatever kind of irrational thing they think of. And all I see from Caleb Maupin, I'm just trying to bring the subject back to him, is his America would just be the same as the one we currently have now. The only difference is we would have a human face. Things would slightly be better for the middle class, and things would be worse for the poor and the lumpen. That's
Yeah,
what Caleb's America would be. It would.
look what he's done with any working class person who's ever come to him, or even lower aristocrats. People who would normally dress like fucking you or I. He's got them all dressing fucking in suits and acting like poshmen and preaching professionalism over them. Like he's genuinely like he's bourgeoisificating people rather than learning from them. Like he's not going to these lumpen, these proletarian people or anyone like that to learn from them. He's picking people he can and trying to professionalize them. And I feel that's something he tried to do with Jason. I think he would. I genuinely think his original aim with Jason was to do the same thing he's done with other communists, professionalize them into someone who's a worthy ally to his Americanism.
Yeah, but when I've talked to, a normal people when it comes to, I asked them, what do you think of someone in a suit? They think of them as a con man. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, like what's it?
And I
We
love
call
George.
them suits for a reason. Like suit was normally a colloquial slang term from the lower class that means an executive, but suit has
Well,
become more of a colloquial term for the aristocratic snob that dresses up like he's bourgeois. Like those are the
well,
people who are the most conny of con men, are the people that think they're a billionaire when they maybe have 2 million in the bank.
George Carlin basically described when fascists come to America, they'll be wearing suits and Nike sneakers, I believe.
Oh my god, Judge Carlin knows how to fucking hit it right on the tee.
Yeah, but
What a golf expression.
I don't think I really have much left to say, honestly.
Well, actually, that comes into what I was about to say anyway, is that I think that I'd like to wrap it up with what I was planning for the end, which is I got a song that sort of really reps in to tie in this situation. Um,
There ain't a drone up in the sky that I'm afraid of. Not a single pig alive that I would run away from. I'm still high for Death March. Shout out to your pay stub and fuck your supervisor if he's a dick, homie, straight up. The homie told me he been working round the bets. Filipinos that they use made promises to and left. Promises that they have broken, now coaxing them with a check. And neglected the fact they laid on a compensation bet. The comrades get it poppin' though. He said with confidence, man, I smoke a half a zip a day dealing with politics. I said, I feel you, bruh. I rolled another and we talked about how we could get it structured by the summer. Said, I am down to rally. I will call you family, cause I will take a bullet for my comrade gladly. I am down to rally. I will call you family, cause I will take a bullet for my comrade happily. Building with the comrade, sharing with the comrade. Diddy bobbing volley with the comrade. Down a couple drinks with the comrade. Criticize the comrade. Take the criticism from the
there,
comrade
Stone?
and try and get better for my comrade.
Yeah.
Solid with the comrade.
I'm just streaming this.
Never ever read on any comrade. I gotta stay sharp for my
Oh, yeah.
comrade.
Well, I
Depending
can't
on
see
the
from my end.
comrade. Take a couple bullets for my comrade. There ain't a drone up in the sky that I'm afraid of. Not a single pick
So what do you-
alive
what-
that
what
I would
song
run
are you
away
gonna be
from. I'm
playing?
still high for Arab Spring. Shout out to your pay stub and fuck your supervisor if he's a dick. Straight up. She put her hand out with a standard size flyer. Had a baby in her arm. Other children right beside her. She said she was trying to spread the word to get the message out that if they send her back to Jalisco, her kids will be without hands that'll feed a little one. Literally sick of them. Forcing the family to leave her home so they can profit from. Told her I would see her at the meeting after work. Walking extra lap around the block to burn what I could burn. And said I am down to rally.
Oh, I think I
will
know
call you
where this is
family, cause
going.
I will take a bullet for my comrade gladly. I am down to rally. I will call you family, cause I will take a bullet for my comrade happily. Building with the comrade, sharing with the comrade.
What are you-
Diddy bobby volley with
are
the
you playing a
comrade.
song?
Down a
I
couple
cannot hear
drinks
it.
with the comrade.
Yes.
Criticize the comrade. Take the criticism from the
Can you hear
comrade
on
and
your
try
end?
and get
'Cause I
better
can't
for my
hear it on mine.
comrade. Solid with
I
the
probably didn't select the
comrade.
audio
Never
thing,
ever
so-
read on any comrade. I gotta stay sharp for my comrade. Depending on the comrade. Take a couple bullets for my comrade.
So I can't hear.
For the people watching.
Students with ADHD.
Maybe it's on
say-
my end because I don't hear anything.
Yeah, because I'm showing it for the stream, so it's probably not picking the sound up properly.
Whatever, just keep playing it.
I've already played it. It's finished.
Oh,
Fucking hell.
well,
Well, what's it? That's the end of that. Fucking Comrades
This-
by Bamboo. Fucking lock it up.
the slander by
Wrong.
Jason the slander by Jason is a slander on all of us because, you know, they'll do this to all of us. I mean, when, you know, who knows what B level and Noah and his ilk will try to do to me because they'll try to dig something up and take it out of context or just make shit up. You know, make me out to be a racist against Asian people. I know B level's type. Considering how much because of one thing I said one time that may not have been something I should have said. But then again, back when I was reading Settlers, when I was reading it, or yeah, to make me out to be a racist, or just take what I said last year and remove the context that I was in the not in a good mental state,
And still
And use
learning
my-
your shit.
and using my debate with Uncle Thomas to make me out to be a racist, or make it look like that I'm using minorities. I mean, I know B level what he's gonna do that to me. He's gonna try to slander me as a racist. I'm surprised he hasn't done that yet. I'm shocked that he hasn't tried.
Well, that's it. These people won't attack positions because it's hard to criticize positions that are correct.
Falcone, well, they don't. They'll just fucking Oz's followers will just fucking harass her in order to keep her off, or try to dox her, because she's had a shit position on the DPRK.
Inter-MRN rivalry. It just comes to this to sort of make an end note on this 3-hour Goliath, is that hands off, comrades, if you're going to be slandering them, trashing their name through the mud, treating them like shit. This is not just the now. This is the history of these things. Stop. This isn't just what Caleb's doing. This is what everyone's doing. The slandering of Jason has done nothing but drive him downhill. It's not doing any good for him. You gaslighting people is not a nice thing to do. Gaslight, the fucking definition of gaslight is to mess with someone's psychological understanding of what the fuck is going on by blasting their by regurgitating their positions into blasts that manipulate their ideas into falsehoods, basically to incur onto someone something that they are not saying. So gaslighting is not fucking engaging in a struggle. Gaslighting is fucking it's inhumane behavior that takes people's ideas and blasts them into shit. We can't be doing that shit. We can't be slandering people. We can't be just calling people fat. We can't just be calling people ultra. We can't just be calling people X, Y, and Z. Criticize the ideas or fuck off. If you're not going to come with an actual criticism of the ideas I present, John presents, that Falcone presents, that Luke presents, that the BRB or Jason or Net or Weisfeld or anyone that we've ever involved ourselves with, if you don't actually criticize their positions, you ain't got no fucking standing, and I ain't gonna fucking hit you shit. You're gonna turn around and slander people rather than actually attack their positions. You are absolutely worthless in the game of intellectual discussion.
Well, I will say this: you're no better than the FBI and the CIA. I mean, you're basically doing their dirty work for them by slandering people like Jason.
God, that gives a real new meaning to dirty deeds done dirt cheap.
It's like, why does the CIA need to do COINTELPRO when they have you, Caleb, when they have you, Hawes? You are doing their work better than they ever could. You are masquerading yourselves as communists, and you're doing work that they couldn't even dream of.
Well, this is the aristocracy in action. They're protecting the system. They're coming out because the American system can't protect itself. They're coming to protect it for them.
Well, I'm just
cute, really.
My last thing I'll say though about this whole thing, if you resort to slander and or doxing, you're no comrade. In fact, you are an enemy of the working class, and if people get killed because of this, as far as I'm concerned, their blood is on your hands, and as far as I'm concerned, you're an accessory to a potential murder victim. That's all I have to say.
No, absolutely. I guess sort of way to end this is hands off the anarchists and PSFM in Arizona. Hands off Black Red Guard and the African people struggling against the Jim Crow states, and hands off Jason Unruhe. Red salute, comrades.
Red salute, and down with fascism.
Down with fascism.